What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
2 Saw. Chapter 21 Sealed State. Jingli Lingua said jokingly, but she didn't expect that the name she heard next was actually Su Chen. Student Su Chen, please come on stage and introduce yourself. Su Chen walked onto the stage, stood on the podium, and glanced at everyone below. These people are the most elite students of this year's Spiritual Arts Academy, including men and women, nobles and commoners. The students sitting below were also looking at Su Chen curiously. Makami Ruashui covered his mouth in surprise. Classmate Su Chen, is he actually a transfer student? My name is Su Chen, an ordinary civilian from Rukongai. Su Chen looked like an ordinary guy with a gentle smile. It's just that Su Chen's appearance is still too outstanding. Many girls looked at Su Chen secretly, with peach blossom shyness on their faces. There were even some delinquent girls from noble families staring at Su Chen provocatively, as if they were thinking of how to tease the new classmates. Su Chen responded to all the looks indifferently and returned to his original seat. The planes were empty but full of confusion. At first, he thought Su Chen was a member of the group. As a noble, I can't remember every commoner's face, so I felt that Su Chen was embarrassed. But I didn't expect Su Chen to be a transfer student. How could a mere commoner with no background, no resources, and no strength be able to join the elite group of Spiritual Arts Academy? Could it be that there is something special about Su Chen? Okay, I believe everyone knows Su Chen. As a first-year group, you are the most outstanding elites in this academy. I hope that you will not only aim to join the squad, but also strive to become a Shinigami with a central position in the squad. Next, I will take you to get your own sealed state. Follow me. Kuranosuke Kyoto walked out of the classroom first, followed by a group of students. First, he walked out of the teaching building, and then moved forward. Along the way, Kuranosuke Kyoto introduced him. You should all know that sealed state is the prototype of Zanpakuto. All Zanpakuto begin in the sealed state, without exception. Shinigami practiced with the sealed state day and night, slept and ate together, and wrote his soul, spirit, and beliefs into it to create his own Zanpakuto. Everyone turned left and right and came to an attic. The name of the attic was Hidden Sword Pavilion. Standing in front of the pavilion were two Shinigami dressed in black. Their faces could not be seen clearly with masks on, and they exuded a cold aura. After Kuranosuke Kyoto handed over some token, the two guards opened the attic door. A group of students filed in and entered the knife room. Inside are several rows of knife holders, with one after another sheathed sealed state placed on the knife holders. These sealed state swords have long and slender blades, and each one is exactly the same, with almost no difference. You have 10 minutes to choose your sealed state. After you have made your choice, come out and assemble. After finishing speaking, Kuranosuke Kyoto left the knife room and closed the door. Seeing these sealed states, Su Chen touched his chin and thought of Wang Yu, the second member of Team Zero. Speaking of which, all the sealed states of Soul Society were forged by him. Therefore, he is also known as the God of Swords. He also disliked that his Phoenix Palace was too poor and built a gorgeous branch palace. Let a large number of Zanpakuto materialize as women to greet guests. He also asked the ultimate question about Shinigami. To Shinigami, what exactly is Zanpakuto? Is it a prop, subordinates, partner, family, friend, pet, couple? I believe that different Shinigami have different answers to this question. According to Wang Yu, the sealed state is the strongest Zanpakuto with unlimited potential. Su Chen would like to give it a try. Is the potential of sealed state really unlimited? I came to an edge area and took out a sealed state from the knife holder. Unexpectedly, the moment Su Chen held the sealed state scabbard, an accident happened. The sealed state that was originally said to have unlimited potential actually disintegrated and turned into countless tiny spiritual beings. Tisk, it seems that the sword forged by Ermea Wangyu is only average. Hirano Sora was waiting for a group of nobles to pass by. At this time, they had already chosen their sealed state, and there was only less than a minute left to stay in the sword room. Many nobles couldn't help but sneered when they saw that Su Chen's hand was still empty. Although Kyoto-sensei said to let us choose the sealed state ourselves. But everyone knows that the potential of sealed states is unlimited, which means that all sealed states are the same. You can just grab a handful. I'm afraid only ignorant civilians will pick and choose. Civilians are civilians after all. How can they be compared with our nobles? Even if we occasionally exercise the privileges of nobles, it is just a fluke. Hirano Kongjin took a deep look at Su Chen and noticed that the knife holder in front of Su Chen was empty, but he didn't think much about it. Maybe someone else took the sealed state away. Let's go, we'll meet up soon. A group of nobles holding sealed states left one after another. Su Chen burst into laughter. I didn't expect that the collapse of sealed state would be misunderstood. Since the sealed state created by Wang Yu doesn't work, then I will create my own sealed state. You watched the sealed state and analyzed its spiritual structure, and successfully understood sealed state forging. Close black lens bracket. Su Chen stretched out his right hand, the spirit seeds gathered in his hand, and, Spirit Sun Control, was activated. A slender knife and an ordinary scabbard slowly took shape. The knife is composed of black and white. The blade and edge of the blade are Senon white, and the rest is partially black. The blade is straight with a slight arc, and the cold light flashing on it seems to be cutting everything without stopping. And the moment the sealed state in Su Chen's hands collapsed. In the branch hall of Phoenix Hall, Nigea Wangyu is playing with a group of beauties transformed into Zanpakuto. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh ye. As if he has his own background music, he has black punk-style curly hair, a pair of trendy sunglasses, and a Zero Division uniform, dancing and humming at the same time. Wow, that's amazing. My lord is so handsome. Singing really well. Darling, I love you. Wang Yu blew a kiss to the many Zanpakuto in front of him. However, at this moment, the smile on Wang Yu's face suddenly froze, and he froze in place, staring in a certain direction, as if he had sensed some incredible event. Chapter 22 Outsiders. Lord, what happened? Asked Renka Kaibara, who belonged to the Namaya guards. There are 5 people in the Nigea King Etsu's bodyguards. In fact, these 5 people are all Zanpakuto, but they have materialized. Renka Kahara is tall and wears cool clothes. Her slender waist is only tied with a red rope, which highlights her amazing figure. Like Matsumoto Rangaku, she has a pair of huge sins on her chest and a hair on the back of her head. The long twin tails hang down to her hips. I couldn't help but be shocked. You must know that Nigea is a member of the Zero Division and is known as the God of Swords. All Soul Society's Zanpakuto were made by him, including the Zanpakuto of other Zero Division members. It has even reached 110,000 years. What kind of things have you not experienced? Now even the Lord shows such a surprised look. What is going on? A sealed state located at the Spiritual Arts Academy disintegrated. Namaya Wang Yu seemed to be speaking in a descriptive tone, but in fact, there was a deep sense of disbelief in his plain tone. Could it be that someone destroyed the sealed state? Suadao Mera analyzed. Mera Sujima is also a member of Nigea Prince Yu's personal guard. She is transformed by Zanpakuto. She looks like a petite girl with fiery red comb hair. As the God of Swords, I can know the location of every sealed state. The sealed state weapon was supposed to be in the hidden sword pavilion of the Spiritual Arts Academy, and then fell into the hands of a certain academy student. However, at the moment when the sealed state finally collapsed, what I felt was not that it was destroyed by anyone, but that the sealed state itself collapsed. As soon as Ermewu Wang Yu finished speaking, Suadao Mila said in shock, "What? This is impossible. Isn't the sealed state the strongest Zanpakuto with unlimited potential? How could it possibly disintegrate on its own initiative?" Nigea Wang Yu said solemnly. As a Zanpakuto, you know very well that the situation of the sealed state actively disintegrating has never happened before. That's why it seems so incredible. Who is it and how did he do it? I can't figure it out. People like this cannot be hidden, and they will cause changes soon. It seems that Soul Society, which has been quiet for thousands of years, is going to be in turmoil again. Outside the hidden sword pavilion. A group of students have been selected and are admiring the sealed state outside the door. Someone lovingly stroked the sealed state blade, carefully observing every inch of the knife's lines, as if treating his lover. Someone slowly wiped the knife in his hand. Although it was spotless, he still kept wiping it. Some people tried to swing the sealed state in their hands, learning to chop, slash, and chop. Makami and Wisui have also chosen their own sealed states. Since there is no shikai yet, everyone's sealed state looks the same, which is the most common style. At the last minute, Su Chen also came out of the hidden sword pavilion. Next, Kyoto Kuranosuke led everyone to an open space with a piece of grass at their feet and many trees around them. As we all know, Zanpakuto has 2 stages of liberation. The first section is called Shikai, which allows Zanpakuto's abilities to be fully utilized, with their own unique appearances and abilities. The second stage of liberation is to understand that among the thousands of Shinigami in each era, only a handful of Shinigami can perform Bankai. Once Bankai is achieved, the name of that Shinigami will be recorded in the history of Soul Society forever. I hope you can achieve Shikai and even work towards understanding. Soon, Captain Aizen Sosuke of the 5th Division will come to the academy to perform Shikai. Then you will be lucky enough to watch it. When the students heard the news, they were all very excited. No way, there is actually a captain-level figure coming. That's the captain of the Gote 13, the 13 strongest people. And I heard that Captain Aizen will also serve as our calligraphy teacher. I feel that the people who teach calligraphy are very gentle and meaningful people. Aizen Sosuke. Interesting. Su Chen smiled slightly. But what I want to teach you now is Sword Zen, which is the secret of communicating with the sword. Sit down cross-legged, put the sealed state on your knees, relax your body and mind, imagine that the knife in your hand is no longer a knife, but a part of your soul, talk to the innermost part of your soul, and awaken your potential power. Makami Wesui, Kagari Ryoka and Kusaki Nika seemed to have some realization in their hearts. Was communicating with the sword actually communicating with their own hearts? In other words, the knife is also part of one's soul. Some people follow what Kyoto Kuranosuke said, sit down cross-legged, put the sword on their knees, assume a practicing posture, and try to practice sword meditation. Some people wanted to find a quiet place, so they went to one side alone to realize their own thoughts. Su Chen also came to a tree and pulled part of the knife out of its scabbard. Since Su Chen's knife is not a sealed state, created by Ermea Wang Yu, it can be said to be a brand new thing that has never had a name in the history of Soul Society. Even Ikibe Hyasube doesn't know its name. In this case, I will give you a name. Su Chen stood up straight and stared at the blade. The white blade reflected the cold light. The so-called essence of a knife is a sharp weapon, a killing weapon. The original function of a knife is to cut off something. Cut off the opponent's arms, legs and feet, thus cutting off the opponent's vitality and causing the opponent to enter death. Your name is Jinsao. Quote. It means that cutting anything is as easy as cutting grass. And the moment Su Chen called out the true name of Zansao, his Zanpakuto had also completed shikai. Although it looks like an ordinary sealed state on the outside, it's just a bit longer and longer, and the black part of the back of the blade has disappeared, and the entire blade has turned into a silver-white color like snow. Beautiful. Astonishingly beautiful. Stunningly beautiful. The orange-red light of the setting sun shines on the blade of the sword, and it moves with the sword, making it extremely gorgeous. However, among the stunning beauty, murderous intent has been hidden. Silently, Jinsao's scabbard was split into two. Because in front of Jinsao, no scabbard can restrain it. The moment its blade touches anything, that thing will be cut off. From the point of view of cutting off, Zansao is very similar to the sheath fu created by Nigea Wang Yu. The sheath has extremely high sharpness and smoothness. It will not be damaged no matter how much it is slashed, and it cannot even be stained by blood. Because the blade is too sharp to make a suitable sheath, or even secure to the handle well, the blade often wobbles slightly when holding the knife. Chapter 23. Nothing is cut off, nothing is kept. Normally, it can only be placed in a carry-on case containing frozen liquid. Only when it is necessary to use the knife, can it be taken out of the carry-on case. Wang Yu jokingly called the sheath fu, a knife that will make people who sharpen knives for a living have no food to eat. Jinsao is very similar to Shibushi in terms of sharpness and smoothness. The difference is that the sharpness of the Jinsao is all on the blade, so it is very stable when swinging the knife, and it will not be unable to be stably fixed on the handle like the sheath. And the Zangusa was an ordinary sword before the shikai, which could be successfully put into the scabbard and carried with you. It can be said that sheath fu has all the advantages of cut grass. Its shortcomings have been completely overcome. Su Chen tried to slide the chopped grass in his hand across a knee-high boulder in front of him. Without using much force at all, just like cutting off a piece of paper, with an extremely smooth sound, the big stone in front of me was divided into two, and the cut surface was as smooth as a mirror. Not a trace is left on the blade, not a cloud is taken away. To be able to cut off a stone so easily, no knife, no matter how sharp it is, may not be able to do it. Jinsao's cutting ability already involves a rule, which is not just as simple as sharp, but an ability to cut everything without stopping. Su Chen stretched out his left hand, and the souls gathered in the palm of his hand, recondensing the scabbard, and let Jinsao release the shikai state, turn into black and white again, and put it into the scabbard. After it was over, Su Chen, who was practicing alone, walked towards the crowd. The students in the group at this time seemed to have been practicing for a while, but everyone had doubts on their faces. It seemed that Sword Zen was not as simple as imagined. I can't figure out the trick at all. How can I communicate with the knife, but the knife is not a human being? I felt like I was in a daze. I didn't even respond. I was left alone to answer my own questions. That's right, calm down and talk to the knife. It's easy to say, but too difficult to do. Kuranosuke Kyoto stared quietly in front of him, and couldn't help but shake his head and chuckle. Today's young people are too impatient, and they can't comprehend Sword Zen so quickly. I think back when he was practicing, he could be said to be one of the most elite students in that class, but it took him nearly a month to comprehend Sword Zen. It was only by chance that I successfully grasped this insight. Although it is said to be an accidental opportunity, if there were not hundreds of previous failures, I am afraid there would not be that one, accidental. He clenched his right hand into a fist, blocked the smile in front of his mouth, narrowed his eyes slightly, and said in a deep voice, "You are really the worst class of students I have ever taught. You can't even understand the Sword Zen, let alone become a student in the future. A Shinigami who holds the important responsibility of the Gote. The pressure is on the students. After all, my teacher also put such pressure on me back then. The rain that the seniors were showered with back then must also be showered by the younger generations." But what he didn't expect was to hear the students' exclamations. Look, someone seems to have understood the Zen of swordsmanship. No way, is it true or false? Who has understood Sword Zen? Kyoto Kuranosuke was stunned. What happened? Has anyone realized Sword Zen? Which student is so talented? Opening his eyes and looking carefully, he found that all the students were looking at the three girls, Mikami Uesui, Kagiri Ryoka and Kusuki Enka. There was a faint blue Reiatsu lingering on their bodies, and the sealed state above their knees emitted a layer of Reiatsu's light, which seemed to be undergoing some strange changes. What? Have you really understood the Zen of swordsmen? If Kuranosuke Kyoto remembers correctly, these three people are still commoners in Rukongai. They have never been taught Shinigami skills, and they have never practiced them. Unexpectedly, the three of them were able to understand Sword Zen in the first class. Three people with such powerful talents suddenly appeared. Is there any special common reason? Kyoto Kuranosuke was shocked. Everyone, keep quiet and don't disturb them, so as not to disrupt their practice of Sword Zen. Under the command of Kuranosuke Kyoto, everyone fell silent. Hirano Kongjin's eyebrows tightened, he gritted his teeth, clenched his fists, and his nails stung his palms deeply. He didn't expect that three commoners were the first to understand Sword Zen. It was a shame that their nobles were left behind. Su Chen came outside the crowd and watched this scene with his hands in his pockets. It seems that the spiritual spring is already working, allowing them to develop their potential faster and improve their qualifications. Not long after, Mikami and Uesui shook their bodies and withdrew from the realm of Sword Zen. Soon students gathered around and asked, "How did you understand Sword Zen? Is there any better way? What does it feel like to be in the Sword Zen realm?" Mikami Uesui was asked and felt a little numb. I don't know too well. Ryoka in the mirror asked, "Isn't it true that Sword Zen can be understood by calming down as the teacher said?" Yinka Kusaki stretched his arms and said innocently, "Is Sword Zen difficult?" Speaking of comprehending Sword Zen, Mikami Rusui and others had never learned it before. I don't know what Sword Zen means either. Everyone else felt like they had been shot in the chest. What kind of devil's problem is this? They all went back to the corner to blame themselves. Mikami Uesui asked curiously, "Teacher Kyoto, is it difficult to understand Sword Zen?" Kuranosuke Kyoto explained, "It's definitely not easy, especially when the three of you are from Rukongai and have no foundation. Know that everyone's talents are different." In the mirror, Ryoka touched her chin thoughtfully. "When we were taking Kaido class before, Uesui had the talent of Kaido, but neither I nor Enka had it." Kyoto Kuranosuke nodded. "That's right. It proves that your talents are not at the same point. That is to say, under normal circumstances, one of the three people who understands Sword Zen should be talented in Sword Zen. The current situation is very abnormal. Think about it, do you have any common experiences or reasons?" At this time, Mikami Uesui seemed to suddenly remember something. Could it be that? Chapter 24 Renting a House. Mikami Uesui said in a cute voice, "Could it be that because the three of us are together every day, our talents are also contagious?" Kuranosuke Kyoto shook his head. The term, infection, is not very rigorous, but there may be similar examples in reality. For example, some people who originally had a certain ability but did not awaken it have awakened their own power due to frequent exposure to abnormal power. Then he breathed a sigh of relief, dispersing the solemn atmosphere in the scene. Well, it might be a coincidence. Perhaps the three of you are all talented people with Sword Zen. This is also possible. Su Chen smiled lightly. This shows that the three of you are geniuses, but you have never been discovered by anyone before. The three of Mikami and Ruosui looked at each other. Although there were still some unanswered questions in their hearts, they were unable to make any further judgments for the time being. Okay, today's class is over here. Let's go back and rest early. Everyone dispersed one after another, preparing to go back to the dormitory to sleep. Su Chen, don't you know the way to the college dormitory yet? Why don't you come with us? Mikami Ruosui glanced at Su Chen before leaving. He saw that the other person was still standing where he was, so he came over and asked. No need. Su Chen shook his head. Then we'll see you tomorrow. Mikami and Ruosui waved to Su Chen and said goodbye to him. Su Chen came all the way to the door of Spiritual Arts Academy, planning to rent a house outside the school. Unexpectedly, when he came near the door, someone seemed to be approaching, causing a commotion. Wow, look, isn't that the vice captain of the 10th Division, Matsumoto Rangaku? Vice Captain Matsumoto is so beautiful, her figure is absolutely stunning. But what does Vice Captain Matsumoto do in the academy? Matsumoto Rangaku wore a zanpakuto around his waist, and his eyes with thick eyelashes scanned the crowd, seeming to be looking for someone. When he saw Su Chen, his eyes lit up, and he immediately ran over, hugged Su Chen from behind, and hung it on Su Chen's body like a pendant. Brother Su Chen, I finally found you. What are you doing? Let go. You are very heavy. Brother Su Chen is so charming, he's obviously plump. Matsumoto Rangaku said coquettishly, using the joints of his index and middle fingers to form crab claws and pinching Su Chen's waist. Why do you come to the academy to see me? Let's go and buy you a drink. Not going. Let's go. Brother Su Chen, Matsumoto Rangaku took Su Chen's arm and dragged him out of the academy. The people around him almost stared down when they saw this scene. What's the situation? Vice Captain Matsumoto just wants to find a student to drink with. The two of them seem quite close. How can that student be so virtuous that the vice captain of Gote 13 can come and invite him to drink in person? And he refused. Matsumoto Rangaku doesn't want this either. But who can let the glutton in the belly disagree? Today, she went to have a drink after get off work as usual. Unexpectedly, the wine that tasted delicious before was as tasteless as water today. When drinking, she always thinks of the bowl of wine made by Su Chen. Although she has only tasted it once, the taste comes to mind again and again, making her mouth water. There is no need to endure it anymore. Go directly to the academy to find Su Chen. I spotted him just as he was at the door, and the plan went smoothly. I can go drinking with you, but before that I have to rent a house outside the school. It's simple. I know a great place. The two came to a community called Zixia. There are pavilions, gardens, mountains and lakes in the community. When the two passed by a stone street, they also saw a seat for pedestrians to rest on the side of the street, which was made of flat rectangles. The connection between the seat and the floor is fixed with steel and screws, and has become rusty after being exposed to wind and rain. If you sit on it and raise your head, you can still see the dappled sun of Madara through the gaps between the leaves. Not long after, the two came to a 3-story independent building. The operator of the community is a middle-aged man named Shuxia Hadō. It seems that he has lost a lot of hair because of working very hard. He introduced to Su Chen. Our service package in Zixia community guarantees your satisfaction and gives you aristocratic level enjoyment. This small building faces south and is surrounded by lawns and a large lake. There are also fish in the lake for you to fish in your spare time. Not only that, there is a swimming pool on the 3rd floor. You can sit by the pool and enjoy the breeze in the summer. It is really the best enjoyment. There is also a rooftop garden built on the rooftop, where you can plant some flowers, plants and other things. While listening to the introduction, Su Chen visited. There is a semi-enclosed kitchen on the 1st floor, with a glass round table and several chairs. The living room is very spacious, and the floor is covered with clean mirror-like tiles, which reflects the light of the setting sun and looks very well lit. There is also a large lotus-like chandelier on the ceiling, which emits a soft light. In the middle is a wrap-around sofa and a coffee table surrounded by sofas. There is also a dark brown wine cabinet next to the wall, where you can store some of your favorite wines. There is also a fireplace for keeping warm in the winter. There are also some green serite flowers and plants in the corner, which are both ornamental and can purify the air. In addition, there is a tea room with good lighting, 2 bathrooms and 2 rooms. The 2nd floor is mainly a place for accommodation. There are multiple rooms, and there is a transit area in the middle. There are sofas and 2 bookcases, and some calligraphy and paintings are hung. There are 4 rooms on the 3rd floor, one used as a dressing room, one used as a bathroom, and a large blue swimming pool in the middle, which is connected to the balcony on one side. There are some flowers and plants placed on the rooftop, and the view is very broad. You can also see the Spiritual Arts Academy building and the blue-black mountains in the distance. How much is the rent? After watching, several people returned to the living room on the 1st floor to discuss. Shuxia Hadō rubbed his hands and stretched out 3 fingers. The annual rent is 37,000 rings. Matsumoto Rangaku's eyes widened, and he pulled Su Chen to leave. It's so expensive, let's go, let's look at other places. Wait a minute, 36,000 rings are fine, Shuxia Hadō said quickly. 30,000 rings. 35,000 rings, this is the lowest price. Make a deal. Finally, he rented it at a price of 35,000 rings a year. Shuxia Hadō handed the key to Su Chen and left. All of a sudden, Su Chen's assets have shrunk by more than half. Including the money he used for drinking, he only has more than 20,000 rings left. After taking care of the matter, Matsumoto Rangaku jumped onto the soft sofa and lay down without any image. Chapter 25 Harmony and Friendship. The legs were spread apart, forming a large character that was scratching on the sofa in a very non-image way. It's so comfortable. It's much softer than the tatami in the team building. It's like an aristocratic enjoyment. If I don't want to go back to the team building to sleep, I'll come to your place. But this is a new house here. There are a lot of furniture, quilts, mattresses and so on. Let's go buy some together. Matsumoto Rangaku noticed this when he visited the house just now and raised it at this time. Su Chen nodded. Let's go. Wait a minute, there are so many rooms. Just buying quilts and mattresses is too much for the 2 of us. Come back to the 10th division with me and ask a few boys to move things together. Matsumoto Rangaku took Su Chen around and came to the 10th division. Su Chen leaned against a pillar at the door of the 10th division, with his hands crossed on his chest. In front of him was another thick wooden column. Under his feet was a clean wooden floor, and to his left was a 3-story wooden staircase. The stairs are made of 3 rectangular planks plus 2 parallelogram planks, so there is a gap between the planks. Under the stairs is a lawn in front of the garden. The grass is all neat and tidy, and it looks like it is usually taken care of. On the right is a team room of the 10th division. At this time, Matsumoto Rangaku is shaking people, and Su Chen is waiting outside the door. Soon after, Matsumoto Rangaku came out of the room, with a dozen black-clad Shinigami behind her. Seeing this situation, Su Chen couldn't help but feel that it was making a fuss out of a molehill. Is it really okay for you to blatantly use the team's resources to do things like this? Oh, what are you worried about? Matsumoto Rangaku smiled and patted Su Chen on the shoulder. Everyone in our team is too weak to do anything, but everyone is a good person who is willing to help others, right? Takezo Kokichiro was the 7th seat of the 10th division, with a rectangular and serious face. He nodded heavily and said in agreement. That's right, we will never complain about anything the vice captain asks us to do. Quote. Look, the relationship in our team is so harmonious and loving. Matsumoto Rangaku put his arms around Su Chen's neck and tucked it under his arm. The plumpness of his chest came into close contact with Su Chen's face, changing from a ball to a quilt. When you take a bite out of the apple, you can see that it has excellent elasticity. Let's go. Matsumoto Rangaku and Su Chen brought a group of black-clad Shinigami to a department store. The owner of the department store is an elderly man named Linjong Gaohai. Speaking of which, Linjong Gaohai was originally a commoner of Rukongai. He passed the Reiatsu test when he was young. After graduating from the Spiritual Arts Academy, he became an ordinary member of the squad and never made any progress. Sticking to one's post every day cannot be said to be conscientious, it can only be said to be doing what one should do. It is rare to see the captain and vice captain in person. Now he is old and retired, but his 2 children are still looking for jobs at Gote 13. When I got old, I opened a shop, ran some businesses, played chess with my old friends every day, and sold some daily necessities. On this day, a dozen big men suddenly broke in. If you look closely, you can see that these people have calluses all over their mouths and they have knives on their waists. At first glance, they are not easy people to mess with. Maybe she's still someone from Gote 13. Although the eldest sister in the lead has not shown her Reiatsu, so she doesn't know her strength, but she can command so many Shinigami, so her identity is definitely not simple. The most ordinary person among this group of people is the handsome man wearing the Spiritual Arts Academy uniform. He has a bit of his own style when he was young. No wonder he is attracted by the eldest sister of this group of people. Everyone took the box and stuffed the quilts, mattresses, towels, toothbrushes, all in the store. This pink quilt is nice. It looks cute. I want it. This cup is good. It has a pattern of shabby on it. I want it. This, I want it all. Su Chen didn't care about quilts, mattresses, towels, toothbrushes, etc., so Matsumoto Rangaku chose them. When I came to the sales rack, I picked up a chess set and looked at it. Linjong Gaohai saw this scene and asked with a smile, does this kid like chess? Su Chen glanced at the other party and said nothing. Linjong Gaohai continued, this chess set was purchased from the present world, and we old friends also like it very much. If there is a chance, little friend, you can compete with us. Our chess skills are all average. Judging from your handsome appearance, your chess skills must not be easy. This chess set is a gift to you because we got along well. By the way, my name is Linjong Gaohai. I haven't asked my little friend's name yet. Su Chen. Su Chen said calmly. It turns out to be Xiaoyu Su. Nice to meet you. The two of them chatted wordlessly. It didn't take long for Matsumoto Rangaku to have picked out what he wanted to buy. Everyone stacked large and small boxes at the door of the department store. Matsumoto Rangaku asked, Boss, how much do these things add up to? Linjong Gaohai took stock and said, sincerity benefits 5,000 rings. After Su Chen paid, his assets were only over 10,000 rings, and he was almost out of money. It seems that I have to think of a way to make money. A group of black-clad Shinigami came to the small building rented by Su Chen carrying boxes. In no time, a room that was originally unpopular was decorated and made completely new. The rooms are equipped with clean mattresses and quilts, teapots and teacups are placed on the bedside tables, cotton slippers, toothbrushes, cups of tea, etc. are all decorated. After finishing the work, Takezo Kokichiro and his brothers bowed to Matsumoto Rangaku, vice captain, everything is arranged. Matsumoto Rangaku nodded, well, you can go. After the others left, Su Chen asked, is there any way to make money? Matsumoto Rangaku counted on his fingers, that's a lot. We can first go to the real world to buy some novelties that Seraiti doesn't have, and then open a store to sell them. You can also go up the mountain to pick tea leaves. Many people in the squad like to drink tea. The captain is the grandmaster tea ceremony. You can also make money by selling the roasted tea leaves. Or you can go to the 4th division to help. The medical division is quite short of manpower. Even if it doesn't work out, you can work for someone else, as a waiter or something. Su Chen rubbed his chin and thought for a moment, is there something that can make money quickly and be simple and hassle-free? Don't tell me it's true. Matsumoto Rangaku clapped his hands together and made a crisp sound, but I'll take you there next time when I have the chance. Today is our day to drink. Get drunk and relieve 1,000 worries, walk around. Chapter 26 Golden Snowflakes. Matsumoto Rangaku took Su Chen's hand and walked out of Zixia community. It was already dark, and the two came to a nearby pub called Tianya. The entire pub is made of wooden structure and is full of old-fashioned atmosphere. It looks like it is decades old. After walking in, the wooden tables inside had all been wiped gray and white. There was an iron pot-bellied kettle on the table, filled with bitter tea, and several bowls upside down on the table. A chopstick bucket with many chopsticks leaning against it. Shopkeeper, give us a box of golden snowflakes. Golden snowflakes. You haven't tasted it yet. Matsumoto Rangaku explained. This golden snowflake is the most loved by ordinary Shinigami because it is the cheapest and has the most popular taste. Nobles look down on golden snowflakes, but for commoners, being able to buy good-tasting wine at a low price is already a kind of enjoyment. Okay, I'll bring it up to you right away. The shopkeeper went to get the wine. Next, a box of wine in a square wooden frame was taken out. Each glass bottle was filled with golden wine, which seemed to have been freshly chilled. There was also a light layer of frost on the outside of the bottle. Matsumoto Rangaku took out one of the bottles and poured it for Chen. When the golden wine was poured out, there were white foam floating on it, which looked like snowflakes. Speaking of which, this golden snowflake is quite similar to modern beer, except that the ingredients are all produced by serai tea, and the taste is different from modern beer. Can you try it? As he spoke, Matsumoto Rangaku also poured himself a full bowl, drank it all in one gulp, then wiped the wine flowing out of the corner of his mouth with the back of his hand, and took a long breath. Ah, it's so refreshing. Golden snow is just what you want to take a big gulp of. It feels good to drink. Chen took a shallow sip. It was ice cold. Compared with the beer he drank in his previous life, the taste was softer. It does not have the irritation of high alcohol wine and is more friendly to the people. No wonder it has become a popular wine. Isn't that Hinamori? Matsumoto Rangaku saw a girl standing in front of Tianya Tavern with a bag of something in her hand. The girl is only about 1.5 meters tall, about the same as Rukia Kuchiki. She is petite, has big brown eyes, has a weak and cute appearance, and her hair is wrapped with a lacy white cloth on the back of her head, like a bun. After hearing Matsumoto Rangaku's voice, the girl seemed confused for a moment. Her head turned left and right, as if someone was calling her. Hinamori, here. Matsumoto Rangaku stood up, placed one hand on the wine table, and waved the other hand outside. Like Matsumoto Rangaku, Hinamori Momo is the vice captain of the 5th Division. They usually meet when the vice captains have meetings together, and they are considered acquaintances. Ah, it's Matsumoto. Hinamori Momo was also very happy after seeing Matsumoto Rangaku and walked into the tavern. It seems that he has never drank much. Hinamori Momo's face turned red and hot when he smelled the strong aroma of alcohol in the tavern. Really, Matsumoto, drink less. The girl yelled at Matsumoto Rangaku. Oh, what does it matter? Come on, sit down and drink together. What's in your bag? Matsumoto Rangaku put his hands on Hinamori Momo's shoulders and made her sit on the bench. He stretched his neck curiously and looked into Hinamori Momo's bag. Hinamori Momo brought the bag to the table. After opening it, there were some tender, white and red peaches inside, which looked very pleasant. Wow, such a good peach, perfect for drinking. Matsumoto Rangaku picked the best one for Chen, and then introduced him as if he remembered it. This is Chen, a student of Spiritual Arts Academy. Hinamori Momo glanced at Chen with some confusion, and then at Matsumoto Rangaku. Logically speaking, students at Spiritual Arts Academy should not come into contact with people like Deputy Captain Matsumoto Rangaku, let alone go out drinking with Matsumoto Rangaku. It seems that the relationship between the two is quite good. Matsumoto Rangaku even picked the best fruit for him to eat. Could it be some kind of taboo relationship? Are you? Hinamori Momo asked cautiously. Oh, classmate Chen is my friend. He has a unique skill and the wine he makes is particularly delicious. I will let you try it later. I promise to beat all Seraides wines. Really? Hinamori Momo looked at Matsumoto Rangaku and Chen suspiciously. Of course it's true. If you don't believe it, you'll know after you drink it later. By the way, I haven't introduced her to you yet. Her name is. Before Matsumoto Rangaku finished speaking, Hinamori Momo took the lead and stretched out his hand, smiling sweetly. Hello, my name is Hinamori Momo, the vice captain of the 5th Division. Seeing Hinamori Momo's innocent face, Chen has already thought of Hinamori, who is nicknamed the meatiest Shinigami. You will never understand her frankness. Hello. Chen stretched out her hand and gently shook Hinamori Momo's hand. It was a small hand that felt soft, but in fact it was flexible in a way that ordinary people could not understand. The two soon let go. Matsumoto Rangaku had already taken a bite of the peach, and his mouth was filled with sweet juice. Hinamori, where did you buy these peaches? They are so sweet. Hinamori Momo smiled and said, it was picked fresh in an orchard. No wonder. Come on, try the golden snowflakes. Matsumoto Rangaku took a bowl and filled it for Hinamori Momo. No. Hinamori Momo waved her hands quickly and started drinking with Matsumoto. Who in Serai is her opponent? I have to help Captain Aizen handle rescue information from various places tomorrow, so I can't get drunk. Oh, you can leave those things to Aizen. Those who can do the hard work. Come on, drink. Unable to resist the hospitality, Hinamori Momo could only wrinkle her face in grievance and reluctantly drank a cup of golden snowflakes. It seemed that she was not drinking enough. After one glass, Hinamori Momo's face turned red. Matsumoto Rangaku filled her cup again. After a few drinks, Hinamori Momo's face turned red like a ripe peach. I really can't drink anymore. If you drink any more, you'll get drunk. Matsumoto Rangaku put one hand around Hinamori Momo's neck and pressed the other person's head closely against his plumpness. Where are we now? I haven't drunk the wine made by Su Chen yet. Looking at the half-drunk man and the drunken guy, Su Chen helplessly shook his head. He picked up 2 glasses of Hansu wine in his hand and looked at the liquid in the transparent glass that was clearly divided into 2 layers. One layer looked like a golden wheat field, and the other looked like winter snowflakes. In that case, Su Chen gently shook the 2 glasses of wine in his hand. In the golden wine, white snowflakes like 6-pointed stars actually condensed. Chapter 27 Ying White Mist. A layer of frost and snow also began to condense on the wall of the cup. If you look closely, you can see that each 6-pointed star snowflake is different. White mist rises from the mouth of the cup like dry ice sublimating, making people feel like they are in a fairyland. Try it and see. Matsumoto Rangaku's eyes widened just when he saw the magical changes in the cup, without blinking, and his stomach was full of greed. I couldn't wait to take the glass of ice wine. As soon as I took it, my hands felt frozen, and the glass completely stuck to my hands. This shows that the sweat on your hands has condensed into ice the moment you hold the cup. How cold it must be. Matsumoto Rangaku swallowed. If he drinks it, his tongue will freeze, right? Are you scared? Who is scared? Matsumoto Rangaku said calmly, I'll drink it for you to see. Pour the wine in your hand directly into your mouth. After taking a sip, I felt a chill that penetrated my bones. But after the cold, I felt a fire burning in my belly. Not only his body, but also his soul seemed to be trapped in the 2 heavens of ice and fire. One's own cells seemed to have become tougher under this kind of exercise. After only one drink, Matsumoto Rangaku fell drunk again on Su Chen's shoulder. There was a heavy weight on Su Chen's shoulders, and Matsumoto Rangaku's golden curly hair tickled his neck, mixed with the fragrance of her body. The necklace originally clamped on her chest also slipped off and swayed left and right under the light. What? Matsumoto got drunk after just one drink. Hinamori Momo couldn't help but look surprised when she saw this. She was aware of Matsumoto's drinking capacity. There are even rumors in the squad that Matsumoto can drink even the strongest alcohol in Seraiti like water. Although it is an exaggeration, it is enough to show that Matsumoto Rangaku has a strong drinking capacity. And now I'm drunk just after drinking a glass of wine made by Su Chen. What's going on? What did you do and why did the wine change like this? You can understand it is a kind of magic. Hinamori Momo also has some knowledge about magic. Magicians use various tricks to achieve incredible miracles. Can I have a taste? Looking at the glass of wine in Su Chen's hand, it was as gorgeous as ice crystals, emitting crystal colors under the light. There is nothing you can't do. Su Chen's voice has a touch of magnetism and is very pleasant to listen to. Hinamori Momo reached out to take the glass of wine, and before putting it to her lips, she felt an icy air coming to her face, as if it was going to freeze her face. I couldn't help but feel a little scared, but also became more and more curious. As if in a daze, Hinamori Momo took a sip cautiously. In an instant, it felt as if coldness had entered the body, and even the bone marrow was about to freeze. The hairs on Hinamori Momo's skin stood up, goosebumps appeared, and she shivered a few times. Closing your eyes, you feel as if you have fallen into an ice cellar, surrounded by an untouchable cold that makes people curl up. However, at this moment, a warmth rose from the lower dantian, warm, and memorable for a long time. Hinamori Momo opened her eyes and looked at the wine in her hand with surprise. How can this wine have such a magical effect? As soon as Hinamori Momo finished speaking, she felt deeply sleepy and fell drunkenly on the cold table. Su Chen poured himself a glass of wine and drank lightly. After drinking enough, I carried Matsumoto Rangaku and Hinamori Momo back to the small rented building. I opened a room on the first floor, put the little Hinamori Momo on the bed, took off my shoes and socks and covered herself with the quilt. Hinamori Momo was sleeping in a large quilt, completely wrapped like a rice dumpling, with only a small head exposed. Close the door to the room and go to the opposite room. Put Matsumoto Rangaku on the bed. Because Matsumoto Rangaku is plumper and heavier, it bounced a few times when it landed on the mattress. Then Su Chen picked up the soft quilt and covered Matsumoto Rangaku's body. Perhaps because the curves were so amazing, even if they were hidden under the quilt, there were still undulations like mountains and rivers. After settling in Matsumoto Rangaku, Su Chen closed the door. Sit on the sofa and soak your feet in hot water comfortably. The first day at Spiritual Arts Academy was pretty good, I learned all the basic Kido. Next, let's read the chanting lyrics for both intermediate Kido and advanced Kido. In addition to Kido, white hits, cutting techniques, and Shunpo also need to be practiced. When you feel the time is right, apply to graduate early. Which team will you join after graduation? Hana Retsu's 4th Division, Matsumoto Rangaku's 10th Division, Rukia Kuchiki's 13th Division. For someone with a heaven-defying understanding, it doesn't make much difference which division he joins. But what interests me most is when Aizen will start his plan. Is it a year, a month, or 10 days? I hope you don't keep yourself waiting too long, otherwise this soul society will seem too boring. Before I knew it, the warm foot washing water had become cold. I wiped my feet, poured out the cold water, and entered a room on the second floor. Place the chopped grass on the knife rest. When I was taking off my school uniform, a doll fell on the bed. It was the chabi that Rukia Kuchiki gave to herself. Pick up chabi and place it beside the pillow. Su Chen covered herself with a quilt and closed her eyes to sleep. The next day, Matsumoto Rangaku woke up staring at the unfamiliar yet somewhat impressive ceiling. The quilt is very warm and full of security, making people not want to get up at all, just stay in bed and sunbathe in the morning sun. My head doesn't have the same pain as after a hangover in the past, but I feel very sober. I squirmed a few times on the bed, then changed my position and lay on my side. There was a cup of steaming sobering tea on the bedside table. The feet under the quilt were lightly touched, the feeling of skin, and his shoes and socks were taken off again. After looking carefully, this is the small building that Su Chen rented before. It seems that after he got drunk, his brother Su Chen took him home to sleep. Thinking of this, Matsumoto Rangaku couldn't help but smile slightly at the corner of his mouth. And I was well taken care of by brother Su Chen. Then an exclamation came from the opposite room. It seemed that Hinamori had woken up. Matsumoto Rangaku smiled gently, got up from the bed, put on a pair of warm orange slippers beside the bed, and walked towards the room opposite. Chapter 28 Strong Tea. A few minutes ago, warm sunlight filtered through the window, and the strong sunlight illuminated the quilt until it almost reflected light. The quilt that usually feels warm and comfortable is now like a hot oven. My butt is getting hot from the sun, and my body feels sticky with a thin layer of sweat. It's so hot. Hinamori Momo woke up slowly, blinked a little blankly, and looked at the unfamiliar ceiling in a daze. The ceiling is covered with golden wallpaper, and there are round lamps embedded in it that are not working yet. They look like a milky white color at this time. I wonder what kind of light they will emit. Hey, that's not right. Where is this? As if the reflex arc was very long, it took half a minute to react and jump out of bed. What's going on? Why am I sleeping in a strange room and a strange bed? What happened last night? Hinamori Momo opened her mouth wide and couldn't close her mouth in surprise. He quickly reached out and touched his clothes. Fortunately, the clothes were all on his body, and nothing indescribable seemed to have happened. The two small, round feet under the quilt stretched and relaxed a little. Then they touched their toes, forming a triangle, then separated again, and so on. He couldn't help but hold his head with his hands, trying to recall what happened last night, and said to himself, after I bought peaches yesterday, I passed by a pub, and then I was called in by Matsumoto for a drink. Then I met Su Chen, and drank Su Chen. I fell unconscious after making homemade alcohol. Dong dong dong. Hinamori Momo tapped her stupid head with the knuckles of her fingers. Unexpectedly, at the same time, there was a knock on the door outside, which happened to be in sync with the rhythm of her tapping her head. He took a deep breath and puffed up his cheeks before spitting it out. Kanyen's chest rose and fell visibly. Please come in. Matsumoto Rangaku turned the door handle with his right hand, and the door lock opened with a click. When he pushed it in, the door rotated and hit the door support, and was fixed by magnets. What you see is a configuration similar to your own room, with warm golden wallpaper, huge lighting glass, and light brown curtains on both sides of the glass. A pink quilt that I personally selected looks so cute. Hinamori, how are you? Are you still getting used to sleeping? Matsumoto Rangaku reached out and used his fingers to comb his blonde hair, which had become a little tangled due to turning over while sleeping. Where is this? Hinamori Momo asked. This is a house rented by Su Chen. The quilt you sleep on was bought by me personally from the department store. Huh, Hinamori Momo tilted her head. After spending some time, Matsumoto Rangaku explained the whole story to Hinamori Momo. Hinamori Momo also sat up from the bed and bent her legs to listen. So, it was Su Chen who brought me back last night. I really troubled him. Although his tone was quite calm, Hinamori Momo's toes under the quilt nervously grabbed the sheets. If you really find it troublesome, treat him to dinner next time. Well, these are all trivial matters. The sun is already shining on your butt now. Are you sure you still don't want to go to work in the squad? Matsumoto Rangaku reminded jokingly. Ah, it's over. Hinamori Momo stood up from the bed like a jumping shrimp, put on her shoes, and rushed out the door. Quick Shunpo, head to Division 5. It seems that I am late today. I am really stupid, but Captain Aizen is so gentle, he shouldn't blame himself, right? Thinking of the kind and friendly Captain Aizen, Hinamori suddenly felt healed. Matsumoto Rangaku got up from the bed and stood by the window looking at Hinamori Momo's retreating back. He couldn't help shaking his head and laughing, he was still so reckless. Division 12. Lounge. Unohana Retsu knelt quietly on the futon all night. At this time, she picked up the most ordinary tea leaves with one hand, lifted the teapot with the other hand and gently poured the hot water. The boiling hot water turns into a trickle like a clear spring through the spout and pours into the porcelain white teacup. The light leaves float in the hot water, swimming around like fish. This first time is called awakening tea, which is to soak the tea leaves and let the tea leaves unfold, thereby arousing vitality. Unohana Retsu's movements were slow and precise, and every step was perfect to the point of ultimate. Kotetsu Aizen was sleeping next to Unohana Retsu at this time. As she slept quietly, she was a little less heroic and a little more gentle than usual. It seemed that it was time for his biological clock to wake up. Kotetsu Aizen blinked his eyelids, which were a little heavy in the early morning, and finally opened his eyes completely and stretched. He rested his elbows on the table and held his chin in one hand, quietly watching the captain make tea without making a sound. The captain always looks so demure and elegant, which is reassuring. The captain's body is filled with the aura of Yamato Nadeshiko, who is quiet, reserved, gentle and considerate. When will I be able to be such an attractive woman like the captain? As he was thinking wildly, the captain's unhurried voice came slowly, Yongyan, give it a try. Kotetsu Aizen's eyes lit up. There were not many opportunities to taste the tea brewed by the captain himself. As commanded. After saying that, she picked up the teacup in front of her. Before she started drinking, she could already smell the strong aroma of tea. After taking a sip, the mouth feels a little soft at first, but after the softness, it has an increasingly strong bitterness. This tea is like Unohana Retsu, under the gentle surface is a heart of killing and fighting. Kotetsu Aizen cannot realize this. In her eyes, Unohana Retsu is still a gentle captain. Captain, you still like strong flavored food. Kotetsu Aizen felt her tongue numb with bitterness. Maybe the captain's name has the word strong in it, which is a symbol of her liking for strong flavored food. At this moment, the sound of the horizontal door sliding came. Ninmeng opened the door, her face still cold, like a delicate porcelain doll. Captain Unohana, Captain Nirvana's research has made progress. Let's go. Let's see how Su Chen does all this. Unohana Retsu smiled slightly, stood up and led Kotetsu Aizen out of the lounge. Walking through the steel building of the 12th Division, the corridors are filled with a large number of display screens, and it seems that even the time spent walking is being used for research. Soon, the two came to Kuretsuchi Mayuri's captain's room. What Kuretsuchi Mayuri said shocked everyone present. Chapter 29 History of Soul Society. Kuretsuchi Mayuri faced Unohana Retsu and others with her back. In the deep blue space, everything around her seemed to be wrapped in deep darkness. Only Kuretsuchi Mayuri's figure stood out from the night like a relief. How's it going? It was obvious that he had only been studying for one night, but Kuretsuchi Mayuri's eyes were filled with bloodshot eyes at some point, as if he had been studying for several nights. He said in his weird and hair-raising voice, you all know that after the body of this world dies, the soul will turn into whole and empty. Quote. Shinigami guides them to Soul Society through soul burial and other means. So, where will the soul of Soul Society go after death? The answer is this world. After investigation, mouse number 79 has left for the present world. In other words, Su Chen's resurrection is not a reversal of time that rejects events that have already occurred. Quote. But a kind of creation. Quote. However, it is still unclear whether the soul used by Su Chen was created using a method similar to the spirit soul technology. The only thing that is certain is that this created soul is exactly the same as the one before. That is to say, Unohana Retsu answered in shock. In other words, Su Chen's manipulation of souls has been so refined that he can perfectly copy an exact soul. It means that Su Chen's Kaido can repair any injury. Even if only a head, an arm, or even a drop of blood is left, as long as the soul has not been completely destroyed, he can cure it. After saying this, Unohana Retsu was also deeply shocked by the information contained in it. I couldn't help but sigh. Su Chen's Kaido has probably reached the peak that Kaido can reach. If it goes higher, it will no longer be a realm that I can speculate on. Unohana Retsu was secretly shocked. Unexpectedly, she gave up kendo to practice Kaido. After practicing for hundreds of years, he almost couldn't even understand Su Chen's Kaido realm. Kotetsu Aizen excitedly followed. Captain Unohana, if such a talented person can join our 4th Division, wouldn't it be of great benefit to our medical rescue team? Unohana Retsu smiled and nodded. Of course, we are going to Spiritual Arts Academy now. Kuretsuchi Mayuri said. Wait a minute, such a talent may not necessarily belong to your 4th team. He said sadly. You only saw Su Chen's talent in treatment, but what I saw was Su Chen's talent in scientific research. Su Chen's ability to be able to achieve such sophisticated soul sense technology will be of great help to our research on souls. Even now I still don't understand how Su Chen creates souls. It would be understandable if it was done based on the principle of Yihan pill. If it is a method beyond the Yihan pill, then. Kuretsuchi Mayuri paused for a moment, and the face under the mask was invisible, but his eyes were very solemn. Then based on this alone, Su Chen is enough to represent the history of Soul Society. Quote. The 5th Division team building. From the outside, it looks like an ordinary team building. As a rescue team building, the architectural style is very stable. Hinamori Momo was walking on the wooden corridor inside the team building. The members of the 5th team greeted Hinamori Momo one after another. Hello, Vice Captain Hinamori. Hello. Hinamori Momo smiled and nodded in response. The relationship between the team members was also very harmonious, and everything made people feel good. Before arriving at the captain's room, Hinamori Momo hesitated and knocked gently on the door. Come in. A gentle voice came from inside. Hinamori Momo patted her chest, opened the door and entered. This is a captain's room covered with straw mats. There are several calligraphy copybooks hanging on the wall. The white scrolls are written with black words, which looks full of poetry. Aizen Sosuke is sitting behind a desk, wearing a black death suit and a white Captain Haori, with the word, Wu, written on the back of Haori in a diamond-shaped frame. The man with short brown hair and black-rimmed glasses smiled and said, Hinamori, you are late today. Hinamori Momo wrung his hands together, put the toes of his feet together, lowered his head and said, there was an accident. Can you tell me what happened? Hinamori Momo raised her head, and it was expected to hear that Captain Aizen did not blame herself at all. After all, Captain Aizen would never do anything to harm himself. Then Hinamori Momo briefly explained what happened when she met Su Chen. Yesterday I sold some fresh peaches and was going back to the team building. Unexpectedly, I met Matsumoto and Su Chen on the way. Su Chen. Su Chen is one of the students at Spiritual Arts Academy. Captain Aizen probably doesn't know about him yet. Aizen Sosuke smiled and nodded. This is indeed the first time I heard this name. However, what Hinamori Momo didn't notice was that Aizen Sosuke's hand that was holding the brush and processing the documents had stopped. Then Matsumoto asked me to go in for a drink and let me try Su Chen's homemade wine. Matsumoto got drunk after just one drink. Aizen said with some interest. What kind of wine is so magical that it can actually make Matsumoto drunk with just one glass? Hinamori Momo recalled the scene he saw at that time. It seemed that Su Chen shook the wine glass, but there was no special movement. According to him, it seemed to be a kind of magic. Magic. Aizen Sosuke raised his eyebrows. It must be an interesting magic trick. Hinamori Momo smiled and said, Hey, if we have the opportunity to take Captain Aizen out for a drink, we will definitely be very happy together. Although Hinamori Momo doesn't really like drinking, it would be fine as long as Captain Aizen is interested. Okay. Aizen handed a stack of documents on the table to Hinamori Momo. It's up to you to handle these. Yes. Hinamori Momo took the file and jumped out, closing the door behind her. Aizen Sosuke picked up a cup of tea on the table and shook it slightly. The liquid formed an inclined plane to the left and an inclined plane to the right in the cup. Being able to make Matsumoto Rangaku drunk after just one cup shows that the wine produced by Su Chen must be something that has never appeared in Serai tea. The so-called Spirit Soul technology was developed by Hakafuna Kiryu, the former captain of the 12th Division and now a member of the 0th Division. The essence of this technique is to put Reiatsu, which has nothing to do with oneself, into the body to enhance one's own level of power. The characteristic is that the food she makes has powerful Reiatsu, and after eating it, you can get a boost of Reiatsu. This seems to be similar to the wine made by Su Chen that makes you drunk after just one cup. If Su Chen is using Righteous Soul technology, it is still within common sense. If not, Chapter 30 came for Su Chen. It would be even more interesting if it wasn't. It's been a while since I've been to Spiritual Arts Academy to show shikai, so let's take advantage of this opportunity to pay attention to Su Chen. Aizen Sosuke pushed up his glasses, with a smile in his eyes that said he had everything under control. Spiritual Arts Academy. After Su Chen got up, he came to the college as usual. The first class is Rukia Kuchiki's Kido class, still practicing yesterday's red fire cannon. Rukia Kuchiki stood in front of everyone. Although she was a petite beautiful girl, her momentum was not weak at all. Ahem. After clearing his throat, he said, Today I will review yesterday's content to deepen my memory. After saying that, he stepped aside to give the students space to practice. Makami Ruishui stretched his right hand forward and chanted something in his mouth. O King. The mask of flesh and blood, the myriad things, the thing that flutters high and bears the name of human beings. Heat and strife, rolling southward across the sea, marching forward. Hadō number 31, red fire cannon. Although he said this in his mouth, he didn't hold out much hope in his heart. After all, Hadō on the 31st had already reached the difficulty level of intermediate Kido, so it was impossible for him who had just entered school to learn it. However, what shocked her was that some kind of warm current seemed to be released from her body along the Reiatsu outlet at her wrist. The scorching flame condensed in front of the palm of my hand, and I could still feel the scorching temperature, as if it was going to burn my palm. A red cannon-colored fireball flew out, blasting the target in the distance into pieces. Makami Uesui felt that his ears were buzzing, and when he heard the sound of the fireball exploding, he couldn't help but feel a sense of unreality. Have you learned the Hadō number 31? And he skipped the previous number 30 Hadō and directly learned number 31. Obviously I didn't feel anything at all yesterday. Not only that, but what made her feel even more incredible was that she heard 2 more explosions in succession. When he turned around and looked, he found that it was Kyori Ryoka and Kusaki Enka coming from beside him. No way. Another 3 people realized the red fire cannon together. The people around him were also shocked. No way, the 3 of them actually learned the red fire cannon the next day. I didn't expect the 3 of them to be unborn geniuses. Yesterday they learned Sword Zen, and today they learned red fire cannon. HMPH, it's just a red cannon. It's still far from being a noble like us. Ryoka in the mirror and Nika Kusanagi also stared down at their hands, their eyes widened as if they couldn't believe that this popular Kido genius was actually themselves. The 2 of them raised their heads and looked at each other. There was a doubtful look in their eyes. Could it be that our unique talents were awakened after joining the Spiritual Arts Academy? Although they made such a guess, it was obvious that this guess was not very convincing, and even they themselves did not believe it. Standing aside, Rukia Kuchiki was also very surprised. It was already rare to see one Su Chen, but unexpectedly 3 geniuses appeared one after another. I couldn't help but rub my chin and think about it. If Su Chen learned the red fire cannon because of his previous exposure to Kido, then these 3 civilians are real geniuses. After all, I personally taught them yesterday, so they must be civilians who have never seen Kido before. This kind of ignorance cannot be faked. There is no such ignorance in Su Chen, but a feeling of seeing through everything and knowing everything, so I feel that Su Chen seems to have learned Kido in advance. Although Mikami Asui's eyes were fixed in front of her, her thoughts had drifted away into her memories, causing the focus of her pupils to become somewhat unfocused, and the scenery and people in front of her to become somewhat blurry as if out of focus. This comes back to the question between them. If their special talents are awakened after joining the Spiritual Arts Academy and being exposed to various abilities, the talents of the 3 people should have different focus. Think carefully about the time when their 3 abilities awakened. While Mikami Rusui was trying to remember, he suddenly heard a commotion from the crowd. Hey, isn't that the teacher in charge of our group, Kuranosuke Kyoda? There seem to be a few people behind him. Isn't it? What kind of wind brought the 4th Division Captain Unohana Retsu and the 12th Division Captain Kuritsuchi Mayuri here? Is that Captain Kuritsuchi Mayuri of Division 12? He's wearing a weird mask and looks a bit scary. Although Kuranosuke Kyoda came with the 2 captains with a smile on his face, he was also full of doubts in his heart. You must know that each squad leader has a big task. They are very busy on weekdays. It is common sense for one captain to come to the Spiritual Arts Academy to teach. It is relatively rare for 2 captains to appear at the same time. Not to mention that their purpose didn't seem to be to come to class. Specifically, they didn't tell me anything and just asked me to bring them to class. Could it be that they are looking for Rukia Kuchiki? After all, she is from the Kuchiki family, one of the 4 nobles, so she is the only one qualified to invite the 2 captains over at the same time. Rukia Kuchiki saw this scene and smiled and said, I wonder what the 2 captains have come to do today. While saying with a smile, he also looked at Katetsu Aizen and Niyu behind them. After all, they were more familiar with each other than the captain as they were both vice captains. Kuritsuchi Mayuri said, I didn't expect that today is Miss Kuchiki's Kido class. It's really disturbing, but we are here for a student this time. Oh, which student can actually alert the 2 captains to come together? Rukia Kuchiki concentrated. His name is Su Chen. As for the reason, it is not convenient to disclose it. After saying that, Kuritsuchi Mayuri and Unohana Retsu walked towards Su Chen, who was leaning against the wall with his eyes closed and concentrating. Rukia Kuchiki frowned. What caused the 2 captains to notice Su Chen, a student who should be an ordinary person in everyone's eyes? Could it be that Su Chen's heaven-defying understanding has been exposed? Will this put Su Chen in crisis? Turning around, I saw Unohana Retsu and Kuritsuchi Mayuri talking to Su Chen. Then the 2 of them took Su Chen outside. All the students who saw this scene were surprised. What's going on? The 2 captains came here specifically to find Su Chen. Did Su Chen cause any trouble? Did he alert the 2 captains of the Gote 13th Division? The most important thing is, what kind of crime did you commit that warranted the use of 2 captain-level figures? Seeing everyone talking a lot, Kyoda Kuranosuke coughed and said, Quiet, everyone continues class. Mikami Asui, who was thinking about something, suddenly brightened up when he looked at Su Chen's retreating back. It suddenly occurred to me that when they understood Sword Zen yesterday, it was the first time the 3 of them showed their common talent. In other words, if something caused this change, the time must have been yesterday, or before yesterday. Chapter 31 Guard. Think about it, did anything unusual happen yesterday? Although it doesn't have to be yesterday, let's tentatively set the time as yesterday. The time has been set, the next step is to determine the location. Mikami Rusui thought about yesterday's experience. Come to think of it, yesterday I had class first and then went to the library to read Kido books. Is it Rukia Kuchiki's Kido class? Or Kyoda Kuranosuke's Sword Zen class? Or is it the sealed state of Hidden Sword Pavilion? Or, is it the library where I read books with Su Chen? Mikami Ruishui looked at the backs of Su Chen and others leaving, and fell into deep thought. Seeing Su Chen go out, Rukia Kuchiki was a little worried. She gritted her teeth and knew that even in the worst-case scenario, she would use the power of the Kuchiki family to protect him. You continue to practice first. Teacher needs to leave for a while. After giving simple instructions, Rukia Kuchiki walked out of Kido's classroom. Sneak up and follow Su Chen. Only a few people walked to a balcony with a wide view. Rukia Kuchiki could only hide behind a pillar and watch their situation. Due to the distance, the conversation could not be heard clearly. I saw Kuretsuchi Mayuri, the always calm captain of Division 12, holding Su Chen's hand cordially and talking excitedly. Captain Unohana Retsu of the 4th Squadron squinted his eyes, crossed his arms on his chest, and listened to them with a smile, but there was a hidden hint of tit for tat. This must be classmate Su Chen. He is indeed a talented person. First time meeting you, I am Kuretsuchi Mayuri, captain of Division 12. Su Chen nodded lightly. Su Chen. Kuretsuchi Mayuri couldn't help but narrow her eyes. Su Chen's calm demeanor alone was not something ordinary civilians could possess. Ordinary civilian students have just entered school and have never seen the Shinigami of Seraiti, let alone captain-level figures like them. Moreover, two captains suddenly appeared and went to the Spiritual Arts Academy classroom to talk to a student. Although they were not afraid, they were at least cautious and shocked. However, Su Chen acted calmly, like it's as if it's commonplace. You should have guessed the reason why we came here to look for you. With your scientific research capabilities, staying at the Spiritual Arts Academy is a complete waste of time. These people are not qualified to teach you at all. Why don't you come to my 12th division? The salary will be sufficient, and food and accommodation will be provided. Well, what do you think? Kuretsuchi Mayuri set out her own conditions and waited with great interest for Su Chen's answer. If Su Chen can join the 12th division, it will definitely greatly advance their research. Captain Ni really praised me. The technologies of Division 12 are indeed amazing, but I can wait until I graduate to join the division. Su Chen thought for a moment and said. Kuretsuchi Mayuri nodded. I was rude. It's good to be able to hone your strength in the academy first, but you can join the 12th division at any time, and we will give you the best treatment. Unohana Retsu smiled and said. Not only is the 12th team, our 4th team also welcomes Su Chen to join at any time, and there are many young and beautiful women in our team, Shinigami, who should be able to chat with you. As he spoke, he glanced at Katetsu Aizen. Katetsu Aizen's face suddenly turned red. He wanted to crawl into the ground, stamped his feet and said, Captain. Rukia Kuchiki saw Su Chen shake his head and said something simply. Unohana Retsu didn't fluctuate much. Kuretsuchi Mayuri seemed to be a little disappointed and lowered his head, but quickly recovered, said the last few words, then waved to Su Chen, said goodbye and left. Unohana Retsu also waved, and the white Haori's clothes fluttered away. She comes as gently as she walks away without taking away a single cloud. She is truly worthy of being Captain Ujiwa. After the incident, Su Chen walked over. Rukia Kuchiki couldn't help but stepped forward and asked curiously, what do the two captains want from you? They came to invite me to join their respective squads. Rukia Kuchiki was a little nervous and clenched her hands. Naturally, she would not believe this reason. She felt that Su Chen might not want to implicate herself, so she did not tell the truth. Even if something happens, I will definitely come to save you. Rukia Kuchiki's eyes are firm. After the two returned to Kido's classroom. After all, the students saw Rukia Kuchiki and Su Chen coming back, although they had various doubts in their hearts, they couldn't directly ask them during class and could only continue to listen to the class. Rukia Kuchiki walked up to the crowd, cleared her throat and explained, the so-called Kido is essentially an advanced spell, especially Hadō, Bakudo, Kaido. Officially speaking, this is the first Kido class for the first-level students. All the civilians soaked up the knowledge like sponges and grew rapidly. Jingle bell. When the bell rang, everyone realized that get out of class was over. Rukia Kuchiki said, get out of class is over. Goodbye Mr. Kuchiki. The students all said this, and the only one who was lazy was Su Chen. He was the only one who still slept leaning against the wall during class at Rukia Kuchiki. Rukia Kuchiki walked to Su Chen's side with a smile, and did not bother to ask Su Chen to wake up. She looked through some teaching materials in her hand to see if there were any omissions. Most of the students left after the bell rang. Only Makami Wesui remained in place. Ryoka called her in the mirror, Makami, what's the matter with you? Makami Ruishui smiled and said, it's nothing, but let's wait for classmate Su Chen. Looked at Rukia Kuchiki and Su Chen. These two people were the same people the three of them came into contact with yesterday. If some kind of mutation happened yesterday, it was probably in one of them. So Makami Wesui came to Rukia Kuchiki's side and said, Teacher Kuchiki, during class just now, I still had some doubts about some of the contents of the abandonment chant. Rukia Kuchiki smiled gently, smoothed her hair, and explained patiently. P.S. I have been thinking about the plot for the past few days, ghosts are screaming every day, and the author is almost degenerating into a phantom. It's better to do Zhuang, just devour the soul. Chapter 32 Kyoka Suigetsu. Division 5. After Aizen Sosuke finished processing the files, he was already in charge of Rizao. Hinamori Momo also completed the task assigned to him by Captain Aizen and returned to the captain's room. Captain Aizen, do you have anything else to ask? Even if there is nothing to do, Hinamori Momo already feels very at ease being able to stay by Captain Aizen's side. Aizen Sosuke put down the brush in his hand and ordered, Hinamori, go and prepare and tell me that I am going to the Spiritual Arts Academy to demonstrate shikai. Hinamori Momo showed her face, as Captain Aizen going to the Spiritual Arts Academy to teach shikai again. I'm afraid only Captain Aizen would be so selfless as to expose his shikai to everyone. Which of the other captains didn't hide their shikai and bankai, wishing that no one would know about it? After all, if their trump cards are known, it will always be detrimental to future battles. Captain Aizen is so kind to us civilians. Aizen Sosuke smiled, I also hope that more students can see what shikai is like. This is also a contribution that I can make as the captain. Yes, I'll do it right away. Hinamori Momo responded respectfully, and then left a little excitedly. Hadō classroom. Rukia Kuchiki, who was standing next to Su Chen, twitched her hair beside her ears. The chant of abandonment refers to the ability to release Kido without chanting words. However, the power of Kido displayed in this way is not even it has reached 1/3 of the original volume, and mastering the chant of abandonment requires a deep understanding of that Kido. It is a relatively difficult way to release. Rukia Kuchiki explained quietly. Makami Onsui observed Rukia Kuchiki, and did not seem to find anything special about teacher Kuchiki. Then he looked at Su Chen again. Su Chen was lazily leaning against the wall and taking a nap, completely unconcerned about the surrounding situation. Teacher Kuchiki is one of the four nobles. With such a noble status, in her eyes, the three of us civilians are just tiny ant-like existences. How could she pay attention to us? Then, could the answer lie with Su Chen? Teacher Kuchiki seems to have a very good relationship with classmate Su Chen. Rukia Kuchiki was a little surprised, as if she didn't expect the student to ask this question, and replied with a smile, well, Su Chen and I are very good friends. Teacher, can you tell me about classmate Su Chen? Rukia Kuchiki was stunned for a moment and realized that she didn't actually know much about Su Chen. It was just that Su Chen was born in Rukongai District 80. At this moment, Su Chen stretched. Rukia Kuchiki stretched out her hand to tidy up Su Chen's messy hair. You're awake, but I'm going back to the squad soon. I'll give it to you. Yeah, Rukia Kuchiki nodded. Then Mr. Kuchiki and classmate Su Chen should go about their business first, and we won't disturb them. Makami withdrew knowingly. After bidding farewell to them, Su Chen and Rukia Kuchiki walked on the street of Spiritual Arts Academy. All the noise around them seemed to have nothing to do with them. As they walked, the two came to a quiet woods. The shadows of the two people in the sun seemed to be intertwined with the shadow Madara. Although Rukia Kuchiki already knew that everything was fine for the time being, the fact that the two captains came to see Su Chen just now gave her a wake-up call. If you encounter any trouble, you can always come to me. Is it the privilege of the Kuchiki family? Well, although I don't like this very much, if you dare not trouble me because you are afraid of implicating me, I will definitely beat you up. As he spoke, Rukia Kuchiki lightly hit Su Chen with his fist. Not to mention that Su Chen looked thin, but his muscles were actually quite strong. It felt like he had been hit on hard steel. Okay, Su Chen agreed casually. With his heaven-defying understanding, he had never been afraid. Someone who could hurt him would actually make him happy. By the way, I don't know what your past is like. After Rukia Kuchiki finished speaking, she was met with a long silence. Soon we arrived at the door. Rukia Kuchiki looked back and smiled. Okay, go back quickly and just send me here. Looking at Su Chen's turning back, Rukia Kuchiki watched him disappear before continuing towards the 13th division. Not long after Su Chen left, he saw Makami Ruishui and three others under a tree. After seeing Su Chen, the three of them approached. Is Teacher Kuchiki gone already? Makami Ruisui patted his chest and breathed a sigh of relief. Teacher Kuchiki has finally left. Although I am not afraid of Teacher Kuchiki, I always feel that it is difficult to get along with someone who is one of the four nobles. If I accidentally say something wrong, if you do, it might end badly. There is no way. The status gap between us commoners and the nobles is too big, let alone Mr. Kuchiki is still one of the four nobles. Hyori Ryoka also nodded. Makami Wisui wanted to ask Su Chen several times if he also had the ability to awaken, but he thought that if it was really related to Su Chen, he might not be able to tell him. Then he felt that his idea was ridiculous. Su Chen was just an ordinary student like them. How could he have the ability to change the qualifications of others? It should be a change caused by a certain event, a certain substance, or a certain ability. As the four of them were walking, they suddenly noticed that many people were rushing towards one direction quickly, as if something big had happened there. Makami Wisui stopped a person and asked him what happened. The man said, "Don't you know yet? Captain Aizen of the 5th team is going to demonstrate shikai. We finally have the opportunity to see shikai with our own eyes. We can't miss it. If you go late, you won't get a good seat." After saying that, the man hurriedly ran to grab the position. Makami and Wesui were very excited when they heard the news. No, there is really a chance to meet shikai. Let's go take a look together quickly. Will Su Chen go too? Su Chen smiled lightly when he heard the news. Aizen Sosuke finally came to the academy. I wonder how much surprise Kyoka Suigetsu can bring to me. What will be the harvest? Go. Why not go? P.S. Aizen Sosuke will appear in the next chapter. Chapter 33 First Meeting. My name is Aizen Sosuke. On a square, hundreds of Spiritual Arts Academy students were surrounded on 3 levels inside and 3 outside. Everyone got the news in advance that Captain Aizen of the 5th team would demonstrate shikai here, and everyone was very excited. What do you think Captain Aizen's shikai will be like? Since it's a shikai, it must be very powerful, right? Anyway, you can see it soon. Look, Captain Aizen is here. Aizen Sosuke steps onto the court, followed by Hinamori Momo. Hinamori Momo felt very emotional when she saw so many excited students. She was once an ordinary freshman at the Spiritual Arts Academy, and she was as excited as these people to watch Captain Aizen's shikai. It was during that viewing that I got to know Captain Aizen, and made up my mind to join Captain Aizen's squad and become his deputy. After all these years, Captain Aizen is still as gentle as before. Aizen Sosuke stood in the middle of the crowd. The sun shines on his glasses, creating a white reflection that makes it difficult to see his eyes clearly. My name is Aizen Sosuke and I am your calligraphy teacher. Also, I will be showing you my shikai today. My Zanpakuto is named Kyoka Suigetsu. As a flowing water type Zanpakuto, its shikai ability is to use random reflections of mist and water to disrupt the enemy, causing them to fall into cannibalism. For the demonstration, we need several volunteers to play enemies. Is there anyone who volunteers to participate in the demonstration? After saying this, many people immediately waved their hands, willing to come up and give it a try. Aizen Sosuke's eyes scanned the people in front of him. However, when he glanced at the group of 1 man and 3 women, Aizen Sosuke's eyes seemed to pause for a moment. What no one noticed was that Aizen Sosuke's eyes behind the reflection narrowed a little. The focus of his eyes was on a very good-looking boy wearing Mao's school uniform. Aizen Sosuke stepped forward. Makami and Osui were all a little unexplained excited when they saw Aizen Sosuke coming towards their location. Su Chen stood there lazily, with a cynical temperament all over his body, and it seemed that nothing could arouse him. What no one else noticed at this time was that the person Aizen Sosuke was looking at was him. The person Su Chen noticed was not only Aizen Sosuke, but also Hogyoku who was in Aizen Sosuke's arms. Hogyoku may not be visible to others. But in Su Chen's eyes, Hogyoku, who can break through the limits of Shinigami and absorb and materialize things that exist around him, is as dazzling as the scorching sun in the middle of the night. Su Chen smiled lightly. Although it is only a half-finished product, does it already show self-awareness? As expected of Hogyoku. Aizen Sosuke came to Makami Wesui. I wonder if I could ask 3 beautiful girls to help me demonstrate together. Makami Wesui and others were so excited that they could not speak for a while. They did not expect that the dignified captain of the 5th division, Aizen Sosuke, would actually come to them to demonstrate. Of course. Aizen Sosuke smiled and then looked at Su Chen. This classmate is like a tiger in a flock of sheep. At first glance, he is definitely not a person in the pond. He will surely take off one day. I don't know your name. Su Chen. It turns out to be classmate Su Chen. When we first met, I am Aizen Sosuke, captain of the 5th division. I believe we will meet again. Aizen Sosuke said something that made the 3 women of Makami and Ashui confused. Makami Ruashui glanced at Su Chen with some doubts, and secretly noticed in his heart, is there anything special about Su Chen? Immediately afterwards, Aizen Sosuke took Makami and the 3 girls to the open space in the middle of the crowd. Aizen Sosuke pulled out his Zanpakuto. There was a clang of the sword being unsheathed, and the blade reflected the sunlight, which was so dazzling that it made it difficult to open one's eyes. It wasn't until Aizen Sosuke turned the blade so that it no longer reflected the light that everyone could see clearly. It was a Zanpakuto with a slender blade. There were circles of silk thread wrapped around the handle to make it easier to hold. Overall, it looks unremarkable and does not seem to have any power. However, if everyone knew its true ability, they would probably be shocked. What Aizen Sosuke told everyone was only part of his Zanpakuto ability. Everyone thinks that Kyoka Suigetsu is a water-type Zanpakuto that uses the reflection of water to disrupt vision, but in fact it is an illusion-type Zanpakuto. Its true shikai ability is complete hypnosis, dominating the opponent's 5 senses, causing them to misjudge the appearance, form, quality, feel, and even taste of a specific object. In other words, it is easy to let people see flies as dragons, swamps as flower beds, and let enemies kill each other. However, Kyoka Suigetsu's truly terrifying ability is not this. Are you ready? I want shikai. Aizen Sosuke reminded Makami and the 3 women. Ready. Makami and Ruashui said. But before starting, Makami Rusui thought of one thing. That is, since Aizen Sosuke's Kyoka Suigetsu can use mist to confuse the enemy with random reflections of water, does that mean that as long as he closes his eyes, he will not be has it been affected? Immediately, Makami Wesui closed his eyes. At this time, Aizen Sosuke turned the Zanpakuto upside down in his hand, with the tip of the knife facing downwards. Shatter it, Kyoka Suigetsu. As Aizen Sosuke let go, Zanpakuto fell downwards. This falling process seems to be very, very slow. It seems that Kyoka Suigetsu is not falling in the air, but in the water. And when it fell, a lot of white mist really emerged around it. The ground that was originally stone slabs also turned into a pool. The tip of Kyoka Suigetsu's knife invaded the pool, causing ripples in circles. Devouring Kyoka Suigetsu bit by bit. Flowers in the mirror, moon in the water. The world in front of me seemed to be turned upside down. Ryoka in the mirror immediately noticed that the fog around her was getting thicker and thicker. It was so thick that I couldn't even see clearly Mikami Asui and Kusuki Enka next to me. As this Kyoka Suigetsu, Hyori Ryoka couldn't help but sigh. Although Mikami Wesui closed her eyes, she felt a slight chill on her skin, as if it was a summer morning when the thick fog had not dissipated and there was a lot of moisture in the air. She slowly opened her eyes and saw a thick white mist. The water chestnut flowers in the mirror and the sound flowers on the grass and trees that were supposed to be around him disappeared. Even Captain Aizen and the surrounding students disappeared. Chapter 34. When did you have the illusion? What happened? What happened? Why are everyone around here missing? Mikami Ruosui felt a little flustered. Although I have heard Aizen Sosuke introduce his Zanpakuto ability to cause illusions through random reflections of fog and water, this all feels too real to me. Then a cold wind suddenly blew on the left and right sides of Mikami Wesui, blowing away the thick fog. She was surprised to find that she had arrived in a wilderness. It was late at night, but it was not dark. The moon hanging high above her head was illuminating the world very clearly, covering everything with a layer of silver. Way. Yet she was under two huge shadows. The shadow was ferocious and terrifying, and in front of him was the greedy saliva dripping from the monster. A terrible thought came to her mind. Virtual. Mikami Wesui looked up and saw two huge hollows surrounding her. The hole in her chest was like an abyss trying to swallow her up. In front of Shu, he was as fragile as an ant. In just a moment, Mikami Wesui felt the hairs on his body explode, and he was suddenly dripping with cold sweat. Is this what it feels like to face a void? Die, 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 die. The fear of death has deeply enveloped her. Since her birth, there has never been a moment when she has faced the great fear of life and death so personally as now. Escape, 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 escape. There is a voice in my heart telling myself, run, run. However, the legs dominated by fear were numb, and my heart was screaming wildly, but my feet seemed to be rooted and I couldn't move. It seems that when people are extremely frightened, their bodies will become unable to move. That's how she is now. However, just when she was about to face a desperate situation, a powerful force rose up inside her like a volcanic eruption. It's like my own little universe is burning. Life, soul, and essence burst out at this moment, his eyes widened with anger, and everything in front of him had never been so clear. Every cell in the body seems to be evolving. What kind of power is this? Does becoming a genius have something to do with this power? Mikami Ruosui bit his tongue hard and tasted the salty blood. Her eyes also seemed to turn scarlet. Base. Under the moonlight, a cold light flashed. Sealed state unsheathed. He slashed down at the shoe in front of him. Quick. This sword was the fastest one Mikami Kosui had ever swung in his life. Even if she wanted to stop, she was completely unable to stop it. However, this knife seemed to be cutting on cotton, and the power on the blade seemed to have encountered a terrifying force that was not qualified to compare with the current one. It just took a moment, from extreme movement to extreme stillness. At the same time, he also heard a soft and crisp sound like a mirror breaking, and a soft voice, break it, Kyoka Suigetsu. Yeah, you three really surprised me. Aizen Sosuke's laughter rang in his ears. Huh, what's the situation? Mikami Waishui took a closer look and found that everything in front of him had returned to the square at some point. And his full blow was blocked by Captain Aizen with one finger. The same is true for the water chestnut flowers in the mirror and the sound flowers on the grass and trees on the other side. The two of them were also covered in cold sweat, and they were probably experiencing similar experiences to themselves. Wait a moment. A drop of cold sweat flowed from Mikami Wesui's forehead. Did he swing his sword just now not at two virtual beings, but at his two best partners? Is this the horror of Kyoka Suigetsu? Only at this moment did Mikami Wesui realize the horror of the real Zanpakuto Shikai. Is this the strength of a captain? Is this Zanpakuto's Shikai? My whole body was covered in cold sweat. It was obviously under the scorching sun, but my body shivered coldly when the wind blew. If he really killed his two best friends, even if he survived, he would probably fall into deep self-blame. Mira Ryoka and Kusuki Yinhua were obviously aware of this, with a look of fear on their faces. Wrong. Mikami Wesui suddenly realized a problem. Wait a minute, I obviously closed my eyes before Captain Aizen Shikai, why would I still? Aizen Sosuke chuckled. When did you have the illusion that, break it, Kyoka Suigetsu, is my Zanpakuto liberation word? Quote. Mikami was stunned for a moment. Could it be that? As early as the moment I pulled out the Zanpakuto and you saw the blade clearly in the reflection, you were already hit by my Shikai. Listening to Aizen Sosuke's explanation, Mikami Osui finally understood. In other words, the scene where Aizen Sosuke used shikai and said the words, "break it apart, Kyoka Suigetsu," that he saw at the beginning was nothing more than it's just an illusion after being tricked. Only the second time I heard the sound of the mirror shattering, and then heard again, "break it, Kyoka Suigetsu," was the moment when the illusion was lifted. But Captain Aizen's ability is too powerful. Is this really just a flowing water Zanpakuto? The moment he saw Aizen Sosuke pull out Zanpakuto, Chen felt a strange fluctuation. That was a sign that Kyoka Suigetsu's ability had been activated. But no one around them noticed this. The most pervert ability of Kyoka Suigetsu is that as long as you see its shikai with your own eyes once, the person who has seen it will be in a state of complete hypnosis forever, and will become his prisoner whenever Aizen Sosuke is liberated. In other words, as long as shikai meets Kyoka Suigetsu once, it's over and he can only be reduced to Aizen Sosuke's puppet. This is the most pervert point. However, there is more than one way to crack Kyoka Suigetsu. One was touching Kyoka Suigetsu's blade before liberation. The second is shikai who has never seen Kyoka Suigetsu, or is blind himself. The Tsunayashiro family, one of the four great nobles, circulates the oldest Zanpakuto, Yanluo Mirror Code, which can copy the abilities of other Zanpakuto, and Kyoka Suigetsu was also copied by it. But Yanluo Jingdian has one characteristic. The ability of the reproduced Zanpakuto is directly proportional to the holder's Reiatsu. That is, assuming the holder has a regular captain-level Reiatsu. If the Zanpakuto of a low-level Shinigami is copied, such as the Zanpakuto of some deputy captains, then it will be more powerful than the original when used. And if the Kyoka Suigetsu of Aizen Sosuke is copied, since the user's Reiatsu is not as good as Aizen Sosuke, the power will also be reduced. In other words, the power of Zanpakuto is directly proportional to the user's Reiatsu. So the third way to crack Kyoka Suigetsu is very simple, as long as Reiatsu is one level higher than Aizen Sosuke. This is easier said than done. Aizen Sosuke Reiatsu had reached the limit of Shinigami hundreds of years ago, so there was a plan to develop Hogyoku to surpass Shinigami. Even Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni could not hack Kyoka Suigetsu via Method 3. After the fusion with Hogyoku, Aizen's Reiatsu has reached a dimension beyond Shinigami. Before the fusion, captain-level characters still need to be cut one by one. After the fusion, they can't even understand how strong Aizen Sosuke's Reiatsu is because they can no longer understand it. I feel Aizen Sosuke's Reiatsu, like an ant who cannot understand the power of humans. No, it should be said that they have never understood what Aizen Sosuke is. However, Chen wants to give it a try. At this time, competing with Aizen Sosuke in Reiatsu, can he understand the higher dimensional Reiatsu? Chapter 35, Seeing Fire, Everything in the World. However, he no longer had this chance. Because as early as the moment Kyoka Suigetsu was activated, the world before his eyes has undergone wonderful changes. The moment Kyoka Suigetsu's power enveloped Chen. Just for a moment, he seemed to feel that everything around him was moving away from him. It's like entering a state of high-speed movement. And it's very fast. At the end, there was a bang, as if we had entered a new realm. There was a lot of fog and water in front of me. There are also countless broken mirrors and glass, and each broken mirror reflects something that makes it difficult to distinguish between illusion and reality. Among them are myself and others. There is fantasy and confusion, and there is also cruel reality. There are bright red roses and there are dark abyss. Time seemed to be stretched infinitely at this moment. Chen's eyes seemed to have turned into countless eyes. I saw every broken mirror and all the possibilities within it. It seemed like only a moment passed, but to Chen, it felt like she had been comprehending this space for several years. The mirror shattered silently. After just a moment of convergence, the countless eyes quickly gathered and overlapped, returning to Chen's eyes. The moment he opened his eyes, there seemed to be fire burning deep in the dark pupils. When you watch Aizen Sosuke Shikai Kyoka Suigetsu, you will successfully understand that the ability is as clear as fire, and no illusion can blind you. Close black lens bracket. You watch the process of Aizen Sosuke Kyoka Suigetsu hypnosis, and successfully understand the world of abilities, but hypnosis looks directly into your eyes. Close black lens bracket. The moment he gained this ability, Chen realized that Aizen Sosuke's Kyoka Suigetsu could no longer work on him. However, he vaguely felt that this was far from the limit of his understanding. The countless eyes he saw in the mirror world just now, with infinite possibilities, were obviously not only capable of breaking illusions and hypnosis. Maybe my eyes can continue to upgrade and evolve, but currently there is no such opportunity. The moment Chen cracked Kyoka Suigetsu, Aizen Sosuke turned his head as if feeling something, and took a deep look at Chen. He didn't know what kind of unknown emotions were hidden under those reflective glasses. Although Mikami Wesui was frightened at that moment, he also felt that he had some realization. It seemed that if he practiced more, his Zanpakuto would be able to shikai. When the sword was slashed out just now, it seemed like Zanpakuto's true name was about to be breathed out. Not only her, but also Lingua in the mirror and Yinhu Akeomu. Mikami Asui glanced at his two friends, the three of them nodded to each other, and then said, Captain Aizen, if nothing happens, we will retreat. Ah. You guys please step back. Aizen Sosuke said calmly, as if he had just come back to his senses. Today's class is over here, get out of class is over. Goodbye Mr. Aizen. After politely bidding farewell, the students dispersed. Aizen Sosuke also turned and left. To Hinamori Momo's surprise, Captain Aizen left alone without calling him. In the past, after the shikai demonstration at Spiritual Arts Academy, Captain Aizen would gently say, "Let's go, Hinamori." This is something that has never happened before. Captain Aizen is always so calm and unhurried. Today is the first time that he made a small mistake. Maybe Captain Aizen is too tired. Hinamori didn't think much about it. The only thing that Hinamori Momo guessed correctly is that Aizen Sosuke's departure was indeed a gaffe. Because he can't wait. Can't wait to check out Hogyoku's status. The door to the study room slides open. Aizen Sosuke stepped into it and quickly took out the Hogyoku. I saw that Hogyoku, who was currently within the frame of the transparent hexagram, was actually flickering, emitting a mysterious blue-purple light. How can it be? Aizen Sosuke knew that Hogyoku had self-awareness, but before that, Hogyoku had never actively revealed its emotions. Only this time, it expressed emotion, and strong emotion at that. Aizen Sosuke could feel it. It was a desire, a strong desire. Hogyoku, for the first time, was longing for a soul. The soul of a Su Chen. It seems that by acquiring that soul, Hogyoku can evolve to its full form. After a long silence, Aizen Sosuke looked at Hogyoku and said slowly. Su Chen, you really surprised me. The corners of Aizen Sosuke's mouth gradually widened, revealing a somewhat ferocious smile. If Hinamori Momo saw this scene, he would definitely be frightened. Spiritual Arts Academy. The three girls, Mikami and Wisui, seemed to have some insights and found a quiet place to digest their thoughts. Su Chen came to the Kido area of the library and went to the second floor to learn all the intermediate Kido. You read the book and successfully understood the 32 yellow fire flashes of Hadō. Close black lens bracket. You successfully understood Hadō's 33 blue fire pendant. Close black lens bracket. You successfully understood Hadō's 54 destroying flames. Close black lens bracket. You have successfully understood Bakudo's 33 flashes of mouth. Close black lens bracket. You successfully understood Bakudo's 37 hanging stars. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You successfully understood Bakudo's 39 round gate fans. Close black lens bracket. These intermediate Kido are not difficult for Su Chen, and he can learn them after watching them once. Su Chen then walked to the third floor, hoping to see high-end Kido books. However, at the entrance to the third floor, I met two tall Shinigami guards. Both of them were wearing zanpakuto around their waists, and they looked fierce. When Su Chen tried to enter the third floor, they stopped her. Does this classmate have a pass? Entry to the third floor is not allowed without a pass. Su Chen smiled softly, that's it. Then a red light flashed in his eyes, and the eyes of the two guards seemed confused for a moment. Su Chen took out his wooden student ID card from his pocket and waved it in front of them. The two guards stepped aside. Since you have a pass, you can go in. Su Chen held the cutting grass and entered the third floor of the library. I didn't expect that this small library is quite rigorous. Fortunately, through Aizen Sosuke's Kyoka Suigetsu, I understood all the world, otherwise it would be really difficult to break through. The third floor has not been taken care of for a while, and there is a light layer of dust on the bookshelves. And there are obviously many fewer books here than on the second and third floors. Su Chen took an overview first and discovered something that surprised him. Chapter 36 The Dusty Heart is still alive. I found that there were only Kido books below the Naneteth grade. All the Kido books above the Naneteth grade were gone, as if they had been taken away by someone. It seems that to learn Kido above size 90, we need to find another method. But before that, let's learn all the things in front of us. Su Chen calmed down and read each book one by one. You successfully understood Hadō's 63, Fiery Lightning Howl. Close black lens bracket. You successfully understood Hadō's 73rd, Twin Lotus's Blue Fire Pendant. Close black lens bracket. You successfully understood Hadō's 88, Flying Dragon Strikes Thieves and Sky-Shaking Thunder Cannon. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You successfully understood Bakudo's 62, 100 Steps on the Road. Close black lens bracket. You successfully understood Bakudo's 63, Binding with Chains. Close black lens bracket. You have successfully understood Bakudo's 75, 5 Pillars of Iron Pass. Close black lens bracket. After reading all these Kido books, he put them back on the bookshelf, and then walked to the glass window on the third floor. Looking down from a high place, you can see all kinds of people outside. Some people are studying books seriously in the library, either Kido or Zanjutsu. Some people hurriedly walked past the door of the library, seeming to be busy with some task. Some people were holding teaching materials and looked like teachers from the Spiritual Arts Academy, rushing to where they needed to teach. After these people graduate from the Spiritual Arts Academy, they either join the Gote 13th Division, or join the Kido Squad, or the Secret Mobile Team, and become a part of it, which is likely to last a lifetime. Rukia Kuchiki's words echoed in her ears again. My own past. For Soul Society, he is a person without a past. No parents, no family. Who are you, where do you come from, and where are you going? After these questions came to the Shinigami world, they have been carried forward by the historical trend composed of everyone, and they have not calmed down to think about them carefully. No matter what you want to do, there is one thing that Su Chen wants to do from the bottom of his heart. Although I'm not in a hurry, I think about it from time to time. That is to go back to Blue Star. See how that little girl who is still in college is doing. I still remember the little girl who followed me and called Su Chen brother after me when I was a child, with a silver bracelet around her wrist. See if your parents have grown old, and your body, hair, and skin have suffered from them, but you can no longer fulfill their kindness. I wonder if after staying in Soul Society for a long time, my memory of them will gradually become blurred. Although you may not recognize them when you return to Blue Star, as long as you can see them well, everything will be sunny. Su Chen couldn't help but shook his head. After all, he still had a dirty mind. Even if you gain heaven-defying enlightenment, it will only take a few decades to wash away the aura of worldliness in your body. However, even if the path is lacking and the mood is dissatisfied, I have no regrets. If you want to travel across the world, it should be beneficial to go to the Soul King Palace to talk to the strongest Soul King, but there is no rush in this matter, just figure it out slowly. Now that I have come to Soul Society, I naturally want to have a lot of fun, either to be the king or to be drunk in the lap of a beautiful woman, and to see the style of Aizen Sosuke, Yuha Bak, and Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni. There are also the Soul King, the Four Nobles, Hell, etc. There are also Unohana Retsu, Shihuin Yoruichi, Rukia Kuchiki, Matsumoto Rangaku, these beauties. You've come here, but if you don't experience it, wouldn't it be a wasted trip? After gathering her mood, Su Chen walked out of the door on the third floor. The two guards watched Su Chen leave and found nothing unusual from beginning to end. After walking out of the library, it was already afternoon. For the Shinigami, it's time to buy something to eat and rest. Then Su Chen walked out of Spiritual Arts Academy. As for the classes at Spiritual Arts Academy, this is not the first time that Su Chen has skipped class. She even dared to skip classes taught by teacher Kuchiki, and she didn't even take classes from other teachers seriously. However, Su Chen is not very familiar with where to find delicious food in Seraiti. I think she is quite familiar with Matsumoto Rangaku, a store in Seraiti, so why not go ask her? Matsumoto Rangaku took Su Chen to the 10th Division before, and he arrived with ease. The guards of the 10th Division also knew Su Chen. After seeing him, they waved their hands and said, "You are here to see Vice Captain Matsumoto. I will inform you right away." Not long after, Matsumoto Rangaku walked out of the 10th Division. He seemed to have just finished his work in the morning. His blonde hair was a little hairy. When he saw Su Chen, his eyes lit up. He rushed up to hug Su Chen in 3 steps. She grabbed him and squeezed Su Chen's face with the fullness of her chest. Wow, brother Su Chen actually knows how to come to play with his sister. It's great. Come in and sit down. Su Chen's face was immersed in the smoothness. Although it was quite comfortable, the astonishing feeling of wrapping made it difficult to breathe. She asked in an unclear voice, "Is there anything delicious in Seraiti? Wrap it around me." Matsumoto Rangaku let go of Su Chen and patted his chest, swaying gently like water or waves. You're asking the right person about this. I know a barbecue restaurant where the wild boar tastes really good. The two went to a barbecue restaurant, sat down and waited for a short time before the pre-made barbecue and oven were served. Grill it piece by piece until both sides of the meat are golden brown and sizzling with oil, then place it on a piece of cold lettuce and put it in your mouth. When you bite into it, you're greeted with a bite of crisp vegetables, followed by fragrant grilled meat and fat. Matsumoto Rangaku couldn't help but have a happy look on his face. Yeah. It's so delicious. Su Chen simply took a few bites. For Shinigami who have not eaten too much delicious food, the barbecue here is already very good. But in Su Chen's eyes, it is average, especially if the wild boar meat is cooked incorrectly, the taste will be even more unpleasant and the meat will be poorer in texture. The barbecue here is too ordinary. If I have the chance, I will take you to the real world and cook you something delicious. Is this normal? Matsumoto Rangaku said doubtfully. However, if we go to the present world casually, I'm afraid it will violate Soul Society's rules. Except for the purification team of the 13th Division, Shinigami from other divisions are generally not allowed to enter the present world at will without permission. Even the members of the 13th Division have rules not to interact with humans, let alone let humans know about the existence of Shinigami. Although the team members didn't know why they were doing this, they could only abide by it. It doesn't matter. Going to the present world is not the most critical thing. The most critical point is that humans cannot know the existence of Shinigami. At that time, I will make 2 sets of spiritual skeletons so that we can disguise ourselves as humans and enter the present world as humans. Matsumoto Rangaku didn't take this matter too seriously. He nodded and continued to cook. After eating and drinking, Su Chen's pocket shrank further, leaving only 15,000 rings. What is the method of making money you mentioned before? Listen to it. Matsumoto Rangaku wiped his glossy red lips with a tissue. Swordsmanship competition. Chapter 37 Half of the Sky. For Su Chen, Matsumoto Rangaku's method of making money is indeed just a matter of listening and seeing. If you really want to make money, if you develop a technology and send it to Team 12, you will make a lot of money from patent fees. Or rob the rich and give to the poor, borrow some money from those blood-sucking nobles, and suppress them if they dare to object. As the two walked on the road, Matsumoto Rangaku introduced. The swordsmanship competition is a competition held by the 11th Division and is held every 10 years. To select the person with the strongest Seraiti swordsmanship. The top 3 will not only receive monetary rewards, fame and reputation, etc., but they can also go to the first team to receive swordsmanship guidance from the captain. Although he is said to be the strongest swordsman in Seraiti, usually the members of Division 13 and S, the vice-captains, are involved. The captains have a lot to deal with every day and cannot escape their responsibilities. And judging from their strength, the people participating in the sword competition are too weak to be interested. Since there may be a gap in the Reiatsu between the two sides, the battle may not be suspenseful, so one of the rules is to limit the Reiatsu of both sides to fight at the same level, and the competition is about personal swordsmanship. Matsumoto Rangaku briefly introduced the sword fighting competition. To put it bluntly, it's a competition to select the strongest swordsman among the vice-captains and team members, right? That's a good summary, Matsumoto Rangaku said with a smile. When the time comes, I will get a ranking, and the two of us will be rich and lively, hehe. It's just that there's still some time before the competition starts. During this time, I can only ask brother Su Chen. With a snap, Matsumoto Rangaku clasped his hands together and sincerely begged. Let's go after eating. Su Chen nodded. Raising a Matsumoto Rangaku would be no problem. The warm sunshine was shining on my body, and I couldn't help but feel a little sleepy after eating and drinking enough. Fresh dried fruits and lotus seeds, take a look at them as you pass by. There was a shelf in front of an old woman's stall. There were many square wooden boxes on the shelf. Inside the boxes were some nuts with shells and skins. Speaking of which, I haven't tasted Seraiti's nuts yet. Come on, look at those nuts. Matsumoto Rangaku nodded and followed Su Chen's footsteps towards the nut stall. The old woman smiled kindly and said, the two talented men and beautiful women look like a couple at first glance. Why don't you buy some and take them home to try? As soon as Matsumoto Rangaku heard this, Shafei took a bag with his cheeks, tapped his long green fingers, and took out some luosheng and lotus seeds. Old lady, he and I are not the kind of relationship you think. Hey, I understand. The old lady weighed it with a smile on her face and said, it's worth a ring. After Su Chen paid the money, Matsumoto Rangaku followed Su Chen carrying the bag. I haven't eaten these peanuts and lotus seeds yet. How do they taste? It tastes very good. I'll peel it off for you to try. Matsumoto Rangaku put the bag on his forearm, took out a roe in his right hand, peeled off the shell and handed it to Su Chen's mouth. Su Chen ate it in one bite, and her lips gently touched Matsumoto Rangaku's fingertips. This peanut tastes a bit like peanuts. It is crunchy and has a fruity aroma. It can be eaten as a recreational snack. Well, not bad. Try this lotus seed again. Matsumoto Rangaku peeled off another one and handed it to Su Chen's mouth. Su Chen welcomes everyone. The taste of lotus seeds has a faint fragrance, which is lighter than that of rotten seeds. The two returned all the way to the house rented by Su Chen. There was a large lawn outside the house, and the sun was just right. The two sat down on the grass. The warm sunshine made people feel sleepy. Su Chen squinted his eyes. Seeing this scene, Matsumoto Rangaku smiled and said, are you sleepy? Do you want to lie on my lap and take a rest? Su Chen nodded and lay down slowly, resting on Matsumoto Rangaku's plump thigh. It felt much softer than the pillow and also warm. It's just that the line of sight is somewhat obstructed, and only half of the sky can be seen. The other half is under the shadow of plumpness. Well, just make it darker so you can rest. Matsumoto Rangaku peels some lotus seeds from time to time and puts them into Su Chen's mouth with his green onion fingers. The other hand smoothed Su Chen's black hair and smoothed the knotted areas. After seeing that Su Chen closed her eyes and fell asleep, she gently massaged the acupuncture points on Su Chen's head with both hands to make her more relaxed. With a slight smile on his lips, he looked at Su Chen's beautiful face. You can't always take care of me. I can take care of you too. Time passed by and the sun slowly set. There was a sound of footsteps and voices in the distance. Ms. Kuchiki, this is this month's income ledger, please take a look. Then there was a sound of turning over the ledger. However, something seemed to be discovered immediately, as one of the footsteps suddenly stopped. Another footsteps continued for a while and then stopped. Miss, what's wrong? A clear voice asked. What's going on over there? Shuxia Hadō respectfully introduced. That is the tenant Su Chen. According to the eldest lady's instructions, our Zixia community has strong discounts for civilian tenants. Well, You did a good job on this, please step aside. Rukia Kuchiki smiled slightly, but she didn't expect to see Matsumoto and Chen here. Matsumoto Rangaku also didn't expect to see Rukia Kuchiki here, and waved his hand, Kuchiki. Rukia Kuchiki flipped up her hair, quickly approached and said, Matsumoto, why are you here? Matsumoto Rangaku pointed to Chen, who was lying on his lap, and said softly, because this is the house rented by Chen. He and I. Well, we are considered friends, so we will live with him temporarily. Oh, is that so? As if hearing the voices of the two talking, Chen opened his eyes and looked at Rukia Kuchiki halfway up the sky with one of his exposed eyes. Chapter 38 Grilled Fish. From this perspective, it seems that the gap between Rukia Kuchiki and Matsumoto Rangaku is really big. If you lie on Rukia Kuchiki's lap, you should be able to see the entire sky. You're awake. Yeah. Chen got up from Matsumoto Rangaku's lap and asked, Rukia, what's the matter with you coming here? Call teacher Rukia. Rukia Kuchiki approached Chen and said, don't you know? This is the Kuchiki family's property. I'm here to inspect. If you don't have money to rent a house, I can give you a house to live in for free. Just think of it as a little benefit from teachers to students. Chen laughed it off and said, I should still be able to afford the rent. If you fall down one day, I will take care of you. Rukia Kuchiki said jokingly. Can you also support me? I really envy the nobles who have endless money. Matsumoto Rangaku hugged the little Rukia Kuchiki. Rukia Kuchiki also experienced the distress of being wrapped in a plump body. Although it was quite comfortable, she really couldn't breathe smoothly. Don't you have a job? There are team houses in the squad where you can live. Matsumoto Rangaku gritted his teeth and said, now that you're here, don't leave. Let's rest together at Chen's house tonight, and we'll open a few more bottles of wine. Rukia Kuchiki nodded and said, okay. Chen said, let's go out and buy some ingredients first, and I'll show you my skills tonight. Matsumoto Rangaku was looking forward to it, really. I can taste Chen's cooking skills. Rukia Kuchiki's eyes were also bright, then let's invite classmate Chen to show off her skills today. The three of them went to a nearby shop together. Chen picked a fresh fish and some vegetables. How about we cook grilled fish tonight? Okay. Rukia Kuchiki and Matsumoto Rangaku followed Chen and nodded without hesitation. After shopping, Rukia Kuchiki and Matsumoto Rangaku took the initiative to help Chen carry the bags. After returning to the lobby on the first floor of the rented house, Chen rolled up her sleeves, picked up a kitchen knife, and processed the fish. You try to cut fish and understand the technique of cutting fish. Close black lens bracket. In an instant, countless insights into using kitchen knives came together. Chen also became much more proficient in handling fish. He threw the fish into the air and the kitchen knife in his hand flashed. When the fish meat fell down, the internal organs had been separated. Even the transparent fish bones were neatly dug out and placed on the other side, as complete as the fish bone fossils in the museum. Although they were looking forward to it at first, Rukia Kuchiki and Matsumoto Rangaku were still unknown about Chen's cooking skills. Until they saw Chen's skillful knife skills, they couldn't help but open their mouths in surprise and disbelief. Rukia Kuchiki couldn't help but concentrate. Chen's knife skills seemed a bit extraordinary. He was able to achieve such meticulousness. What kind of power would it be if it was performed using a cutting technique? Then the two of them sat and suddenly smelled an amazing fragrance. Why does this fragrance smell so good? Matsumoto Rangaku smelled it and his eyes immediately lit up. Rukia Kuchiki also felt incredible. Although she had eaten a lot of Seraites delicacies as a noble, what Chen made seemed to be different from all Seraites' previous delicacies. The two of them waited quietly, and the longer they waited, the more anxious they became. When will I be able to eat the grilled fish cooked by Chen? Matsumoto Rangaku has never felt that time is so long and difficult. Rukia Kuchiki also swallowed, put her hands on her knees, and tried to maintain etiquette, because she was afraid that she would fall down if she moved. After a lot of preparation, when the grilled fish topped with delicious sauce was served, Rukia Kuchiki and Matsumoto Rangaku's mouths were already watering. Why does it smell so good? Chen, are you a god? Matsumoto Rangaku felt like his saliva could fill a basin just by taking a sip of the aroma. Rukia Kuchiki could no longer maintain the aristocratic etiquette of the Kuchiki family. She stared at the grilled fish and could not move, eagerly waiting for the meal to begin. Chen took 3 bottles of wine from the wine cabinet, one for each person. Actually, this is not good enough. The main reason is that Seraites seasonings are too restrictive. I have tried my best. Let's eat. I'm gonna start now. The two picked up their chopsticks and eagerly took a bite of the fish. The tender fish meat melted in your mouth, and the astonishing fragrance immediately made both of them's eyes brighten horribly, and they started to cook as if they had turned into starving ghosts. Even Matsumoto Rangaku, an alcoholic, forgot to drink because Chen's cooking was so delicious. Matsumoto Rangaku felt like he was about to cry. Compared with the food cooked by Chen, what did he eat before? This is life. Su Chen didn't take more than a few bites, and all the grilled fish was left, and most of it went into the stomachs of Rukia Kuchiki and Matsumoto Rangaku. Matsumoto Rangaku cried. Su Chen, the grilled fish you made is so delicious. Rukia Kuchiki grabbed Su Chen's clothes and refused to let go. Classmate Su Chen, I want to eat grilled fish every day. Su Chen held the hot teacup in both hands and took a calm sip of tea. This grilled fish is just average. If I have a chance, I will bring you something better to eat in this world. Unexpectedly, the two of them won over a meal of grilled fish. Come, let's have some wine after dinner. Matsumoto Rangaku opened the wine bottle, and after several people drank a few bottles, Rukia Kuchiki became drunk, and Matsumoto Rangaku also fell down. Su Chen took Matsumoto Rangaku back to the room with ease, and then picked up Rukia Kuchiki. It was my first time to hug Rukia Kuchiki, with one hand on the crook of her leg and the other on her armpit. Compared with Matsumoto Rangaku, Rukia Kuchiki is much lighter, as light as a feather. She lightly slapped her mouth in Su Chen's arms, hugged Su Chen's neck with both hands, and breathed out a strong smell of alcohol. After putting her on the bed, he took off her shoes and socks, picked up the zanpakuto and put it on the knife rest. Although there was no shikai yet, Su Chen already knew that Soda no Shirayuki was known as the most beautiful zanpakuto. He closed the door and exited the room. After Su Chen tidied up, he also fell asleep. The next day, Rukia Kuchiki woke up on time under the reminder of her biological clock. After waking up, I felt slightly confused. Where was I? What happened? Then I quickly remembered that I was at Su Chen's house. I wiped my sleepy eyes, washed myself and knocked on the door of Su Chen's room, but no one responded. Rukia Kuchiki opened the door with a click and saw an unexpected scene. Chapter 39 Ticket. So Su Chen has already gotten up. I didn't see Su Chen, I just saw the neatly folded quilt and the chubby doll placed beside the pillow. After going down to the first floor, Su Chen was not found. Could it be that it is on the third floor? When I reached the third floor, I realized that Su Chen had just gotten up from the swimming pool. He was only wearing shorts, exposing his strong abdominal muscles, and drops of water slid down his body like a knife and an axe. You're awake. Su Chen wiped the water from his body with a towel. Rukia Kuchiki blinked, looked at Su Chen a few more times, and looked at Su Chen's mysterious parts with some shame. Unexpectedly, Su Chen looked thin in the Junyang school uniform, but when he took off his clothes, he showed that extraordinary sense of strength. I couldn't help but reach out and poke Su Chen's abdominal muscles. My cold fingertips touched the warm abdominal muscles. It felt quite good. Why don't you tell Matsumoto to get up? No, it's normal for her to sleep until noon. After saying that, Su Chen went into the bathroom to take a shower. After taking a shower, Rukia Kuchiki has also finished washing and is sitting in front of the mirror combing her hair. After seeing Su Chen, he put down his comb and said, let's go to the academy together. Although their destinations are both spiritual arts academy, their purposes are different. Su Chen is going to class. Rukia Kuchiki was going to teach, and she went out with Su Chen holding several teaching documents in her arms. In the early morning mist, there were not many people on the road, but as we got closer to the Spiritual Arts Academy, more and more people were heading to the school together. Most civilians live in dormitories within the college, but many nobles rent outside. Some people were a little surprised after seeing Rukia Kuchiki and Su Chen walking together. Who is that student? It seems that he has a very good relationship with Mr. Kuchiki, and he is so close. And they came to school together. Could it be that they live very close to each other? Many people lowered their heads and whispered. Su Chen and Rukia Kuchiki didn't pay much attention. After entering the Spiritual Arts Academy, there were more students, and they could also see some teachers rushing to class. At this time, 3 women wearing red and white Mao school uniforms who were walking together saw Su Chen. It was the 3 girls Makami Wisui. They had just washed up from the dormitory and were preparing to go to Kido classroom for Kido class. Unexpectedly, I saw Su Chen on the way. When Makami Wesui was about to say hello, he was a little surprised to find Rukia Kuchiki walking next to Su Chen. Although the two of them did not speak, the distance between their shoulders was obviously such that only friends would lean against each other. Close. Classmate Su Chen comes to class with teacher Kuchiki. Did they meet halfway, or do they live together? After entering Kido's classroom, Makami Wesui was a little surprised to find that the nobles from Hirano Sarajan had already arrived here and were still discussing something. They stopped talking when they saw civilians coming in. But Makami Wesui still kept an eye on it. It wasn't until Su Chen and Rukia Kuchiki came in that Makami Wesui discovered that Hirano Sora's eyes had been looking at Su Chen many times during class. Could it be that the target of these nobles is classmate Su Chen? Will Su Chen be in trouble? That's it for today's class. Get out of class is over. Rukia Kuchiki collected the materials and left holding them. At this time, Pingye Kongjin came to Su Chen. Student Su Chen, please introduce yourself. My name is Hirano Kongjin. I am a member of the lower-level noble Hirano family. Are you interested in going to a place with me? Not interested. Hirano Kongjin's sizing gaze could not escape Su Chen's perception, but he wanted to see what these nobles were up to. That place is a competition platform for boxing. The winner can get a monetary reward, but with your strength, you must not dare to go there. Can you persuade me by provoking generals? I think since you joined the Spiritual Arts Academy, you naturally want to learn how to slay and move ghosts. There is a master there whose boxing skills are better than all the teachers in the Spiritual Arts Academy. Oh, it's a bit interesting. Lead the way. On the other side, Makami Ruishui was about to rush forward to stop Su Chen after seeing this, but was stopped by several nobles. Student Su Chen, please don't go, they must have bad intentions. However, Makami Wesui, who was stopped, could only watch Su Chen and Hirano Sora getting further and further away until they disappeared from sight. Makami Rusui gritted his teeth and said to Ryoka and Kusaki Nika in the mirror, "You two follow them, I'll call Mr. Kuchiki." Mirror Ryoka and Kusaki Yinhua also knew that something was urgent and immediately chased after them. Makami Wesui ran in the direction where Rukia Kuchiki left. Since he couldn't stop it, he at least asked Mr. Kuchiki to stop those people. When Rukia Kuchiki just walked out of Spiritual Arts Academy, she was unexpectedly chased by someone. Kuchiki-sensei. Wait a minute. After hearing someone calling his name, he turned around and found that it was Makami Wesuzan who was panting, and his forehead was covered with sweat from running. What's wrong? Are you running so fast? Rukia Kuchiki asked with concern. Su Chen. Student Su Chen was taken away by the nobles in the class, saying he was going to participate in a boxing match. Rukia Kuchiki frowned. Underground boxing match. His eyebrows were furrowed, and his tone couldn't help but be a little anxious. Quickly lead the way. Hirano Kongjin and others led Su Chen to turn left and right, and came to a place that looked like the entrance to a basement. It looked like the entrance to an underground garage in a previous life. There was a sloping road going down, and they turned around several places. After turning, we entered an underground place. Inside, there was a young man in black clothes, half sitting on the table, with his head lowered as if thinking about something. He raised his head after hearing footsteps, and his voice was low and dark. Hirano, you are here. Hirano Kongjin nodded. I have met Master Aizuka. This is Su Chen. Hello. My name is Aratsuka Sumong. I am a member of the mid-level noble Aratsuka family and the owner of this boxing gym. Su Chen ignored this person and looked at the surrounding scene. It was very dark here, except for a place in the middle that was shrouded in light and was exceptionally bright. In the light was a large square arena with 4 wooden poles standing at the 4 corners, and ropes surrounding the wooden poles. Seeing that Su Chen didn't pay any attention to him, Aratsuka Sumong was not angry. Since Mr. Su Chen doesn't want to talk, I'll get straight to the point. There will be a boxing match next, and you can get it if you beat the opponent. A reward of 200,000 rings. In the shadow behind Azong zooming, a series of huge footsteps came, and a giant about 3 meters tall appeared behind him. His skin was dark all over, his back was strong, his arms were muscular, and his fists were almost hanging down to his waist. On the ground. This is your opponent, Big Black Bear, and he is also the strongest boxer in our boxing gym. He has not been defeated for hundreds of years. After seeing Su Chen with small arms and legs, the Big Black Bear grinned and revealed a mouthful of white fang. Who knew the next moment, what Su Chen said would surprise everyone. Chapter 40 That Finger. Because Makami was running too slowly, Rukia Kuchiki held her under her arm and used Shunpo to carry her away. Makami Wesui asked curiously, Mr. Kuchiki, what is an underground boxing match? Rukia Kuchiki's eyes narrowed. You have to know that not all nobles have talents. Some nobles have a pervert mentality because they have privileges but no talents. That's how underground boxing was born. Both parties participating in the competition have signed a life and death contract by default, regardless of life or death. The one who wins gets everything, the one who loses loses his life. Since the two sides are competing with boxing skills, not swords, death will not occur all at once, but death will occur slowly with each punch. It's only 200,000 rings, I don't take it seriously. Su Chen found a seat and sat down. In addition to a ring that was emitting light, there were many seats in the dark. It felt like a movie theater in a previous life. There were already many people sitting around, everyone wearing masks. Since Mr. Su Chen doesn't want to compete, we won't force him. Aratsuka Sumong left the seat and came to the ring, saying, Next, we invite number 6 to come on stage to fight against the Big Black Bear. Everyone knows that the muscles of the Great Darkness are harder than steel. What kind of feast will it bring us today? I saw a man who looked shabby and exhausted, and didn't even have a pair of straw sandals on his feet, walking onto the ring. His opponent was a big black bear with a fist as big as a casserole. Game start. After the initial sound fell, number 6 was knocked down by a punch without any resistance. He hit the ground heavily and was swept several meters away. Hirano Sarajan sat down near Su Chen and said with a smile, the name of number 6 is Mao Sao Chofeng, a commoner from Rukongai. His mother is seriously ill. He has no money to treat her, so he can only try underground black boxing. It's just that his behavior is destined to seek death. Even if he tries his best, he can't defeat the Big Black Bear. Cao Cao Chu Feng struggled to get up, but as soon as he got up, he was punched heavily on the back by the Big Black Bear. There was a cracking sound of bones, and a lot of dust suddenly arose around him. Cao Cao Chu Feng spat out a mouthful of blood. Punch after punch, even though his spine was broken, Mao Cao Chofeng still tried his best to get up. As long as he could win, he could cure his mother's disease and live the life he wanted. However, reality hit him hard on the back, telling him that everything was an illusion and everything was impossible. The nobles who saw this scene not only showed no sympathy or pity, but instead screamed with excitement. Well played. Get up. Didn't you eat? Su Chen crossed his arms and watched this scene quietly, but with each punch, his eyes would narrow and his eyes would become colder. Punch after punch. Every time a punch was struck, there would be blood and screams, as well as excited cheers from the surrounding nobles. Gradually, even the screams disappeared, and the big black bear still punched him one after another, with a cruel smile on his face. Later, he felt that Cao Cao Chu Feng was probably dead. What he saw was almost a pool of flesh and blood in front of him, his limbs were twisted, and he couldn't look human at all. Just when the big black bear was about to land another punch, he found that his arms seemed to be clamped by a vice and could no longer move. Turning around, he saw that the boy named Su Chen had stood in front of him at some point. He gently put his index finger on his wrist and blocked his punch. Real or fake? What is 1000-7? The kid asked an incomprehensible question out of nowhere, and the big black bear didn't understand. What's 1000-7? Su Chen repeated without raising his head, as if the big black bear didn't deserve a second look from him. Are you looking for death? Big black bear struck Su Chen with his left fist. Unfortunately, the answer is wrong. I will give you death. Su Chen's index finger flicked lightly. The flick was extremely elegant, like playing a musical instrument, but its power eclipsed everyone present. Soon, Rukia Kuchiki and Mikami Asui arrived at an underground entrance, where Kagiri Ryoka and Kusuki Nika were waiting for them. Ryoka said in the mirror, Teacher Kuchiki, we saw Su Chen go in from there. Mikami Wesui and the others looked in the direction they were pointing. There was no name for that place, just a deep hole that went all the way down, like the mouth of a life-devouring monster. Walk. Rukia Kuchiki said only one word and walked forward without hesitation. The wind blew the corners of her decisive clothes, making a hunting sound. When he was about to enter, unexpectedly there were two Shinigami in black at the entrance, holding knives and stopping Rukia Kuchiki. Rukia Kuchiki clenched the handle of Soda no Shirayuki's knife at her waist with her right hand. She squeezed her fingers together little by little, as if she was trying to break the handle into pieces. She said coldly, Get out of the way, I don't want to kill anyone. The two black-clad Shinigami were unmoved, and the sword in Rukia Kuchiki's hand flashed. The hair on their temples fell off the first floor. What will be taken off with the next knife will be your heads. Rukia Kuchiki's hair danced lightly, and she didn't know why she was so anxious. It's because Su Chen is his student. Or because he is Su Chen. Or because of guilt and self-blame. Mikami Wesui looked at this scene in surprise. He didn't expect that the gap between himself and Mr. Kuchiki was so big. The knife just now was so fast that he didn't even see it clearly. Let alone the moment when the knife was struck, even Kuchiki I didn't even see how the teacher put the knife away. Bang bang bang. A man clapped his hands and said, What a wonderful knife. The knife just now could have taken away the lives of both of them. Thank you Miss Kuchiki for showing mercy. The person who came was none other than Aratsuka Sumao, and he lectured. You two don't have eyes, don't you even recognize Ms. Kuchiki? If you piss her off, some of your heads will be chopped off, and you won't back down. Yes. The two guards resigned. Aratsuka Sumao put on a formulaic smile. It turns out that Miss Kuchiki is here. It really makes the Aratsuka boxing gym shine. Please come in. Rukia Kuchiki gave Arasuka Sumo a cold look and stepped into the boxing gym. After passing through several corners, unexpectedly there was a loud noise in front of me. Something huge hit the wall heavily, causing the entire place to shake like an earthquake. Dust mixed with gravel fell, and it seemed that the next moment, the entire underground place would be overwhelmed by some kind of earthquake. The huge force crushes it.